Good. Welcome, everybody. Hope you're having an awesome day today. We are a little sad because Kent just got a great product that we can't go and test out at his home. But we'll live. We're happy. Ken, how do you like that? Is it already installed and ready to go?
Yeah. I'm 6 days strong. I love cold plunging though. I did it all through the winter. It goes really well with the pre-workout that I have. Ask Curtis about my pre-workout.
I was expecting you to say I did it all through the summer. Not all through the winter. Welcome, everyone, to Real Estate Remix, where Lab Good Agents partnered with REDX because they're one of our favorite sponsors and our friends from a long time. And we thought, what an amazing opportunity right now to take a look at how things have changed recently, how what we thought wasn't working as well all of a sudden works amazingly well, even more so. And then adding some new things that you wouldn't think would work with what you're used to. So we're mixing in, this is the reason, we're mixing in some old school and some new school, and we're showing you how to succeed in the current market you're in and where we're headed. So with that, just quick intros. Curtis, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll go to Kent.
I'm Curtis, president of REDX. I've been in the industry 19 years this month. And I've been at REDX that whole time. So we've seen some different markets, some different industries. We've seen some evolution of lead generation, right? I think we've seen a lot. I think right now, the most important thing about everything we're talking about today is that for so long, people have been relying on these lead gen companies to supply them with a consistent pipeline of leads. And and that's just not working right now. It's not working the way that it used to be. Some of those companies are changing. Some of them are not offering leads in certain markets, or they're moving to more of a partnership back-end, shared referral commission model, which, at 40%, sometimes for some people that doesn't fly. With the lawsuit and buyers and the whole idea of filling your CRM with a bunch of potential buyers that have a 0.2% conversion over a 24-month sales cycle is not helping agents in today's market. It's not helping people do that. So I think the message that I want people to understand is that we're talking about giving you the power to take control of your lead generation in your business, not just from traditional methods, but new methods of how you take control of the lead gen, because we want to get you back to freedom. We want to get you back to not feeling burned out and overwhelmed. And the only way to do that is to have predictability in your business. Business, no matter what the market is, if it's predictable, it doesn't feel stressful, right? And Kent, you're having a way better year this year than last year, right?
Yeah. Overall, we are.
And
we're
part
already
of
past,
that. Sorry, go ahead.
We're already past. Our team is already past where it was last year, this year.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And part of that is you have systems in place where you rely on your own internal systems to find listings, to create opportunity. And Kent, of anybody, I don't want to take too much of Kent's time, but Kent, out of anybody, knows exactly what he has to do on a daily basis to make us the exact money that he wants to make. And so when you have that kind of predictability in your business, it doesn't matter what's going on in the industry, it doesn't matter what's going on around you, you have profitable, predictable business. And that means you don't have stress and anxiety and burnout and feeling overwhelmed. Doesn't mean you don't have to do sucky things, right? You got to embrace the suck.
Got to do more sucky things.
So, but
true.
But then it's embrace the suck or suck down more Xanax. I mean, what are we doing in this market? It's a stressful market. So anyway, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about the topics that we have today. My promise to everybody tuning in is that you're going to get actionable, tactical, real advice, not the fluffy motivation that you have to go figure out next. So anyway, sorry, that's a long intro.
No, that was great.
Time to go cold plunge.
All right, Ken, tell us where you work and what you do, and then we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, so I'm in Provo, Utah, Orem, Utah. Worked for with the Gene Tanner team. She's been doing it for 40 years. I worked for REDX for 5 years as an ISA on their sales team, and then just saw the paychecks that real estate agents were getting by not prospecting. So I was like, man, I could make way more money using their product than I can selling it. So went out and started selling real estate about 8 years ago. Do a lot of prospecting. Gene goes on a lot of the appointments, and it's a good little duo.
That's so cool.
That we have. Yeah.
That's so cool. All right, let's talk about what you're doing right now that's extremely successful, because I think a lot of it has to do with the way you talk to people and your tonality and how you engage with them, how you listen to them calmly. Because what I hear when people test out any product that they have the ability to call expireds for sale by owners, geo-prospecting, all these different options, I hear a lot of fear, I hear a lot of failure, and not enough testing out. Where do we start with reaching out to what we would normally call cold leads like this, or cold opportunities? Where do we start?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the thing that I would say, just talking to a lot of top producers, being around a lot of top producers, they do one thing more than anybody else. Can I tell you what that thing is?
One thing more than anybody else? What do they do?
Like the one thing that they do is they just hear no more than the rest of you.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, top producers hear no more than low producers do. So if you're hearing yes a lot, you're probably not a very good producer, would be my guess. So no's are a good thing. It means that you're moving forward. But I would say one of the biggest things that you could do is, and you're going to go over this today, is listing presentation. Like if you want to be good on the phones, be good at your listing presentation, because it's a lot like a dog chasing a tire and catching that tire. When you prospect and don't have the words to say in the presentation, you're like, well, I don't know what to do. And so it's a bad experience. And so you start doing less of the thing that got you that appointment. In the first place.
That's interesting, because it's often not, you're right, by the way, you're right. But it's often not about the actual listing presentation. Hey, here's page 2, here's page 3.
Right.
It's about you, real estate agent, us, knowing what's in it. Because as I'm talking, now that you were talking about it, as I'm talking to people on the phone to talk to them for the first time, or they want to do some business with me, I'm pulling out of that listing presentation from like page 8 or page 3 or page 12 and 13. That's interesting, man, that you say that. Yeah, you're right. You've got to know it so well that you can jump in at any point of it and pull it into what you're currently doing. So with that, then, how do you get ready to start your calls? And then we'll get into the conversations.
I mean, I don't really have to get ready to make the calls anymore. I followed the script so many times, have proof of concept, that it's just literally getting on the phones. I would say it was really hard to make the calls for the first 7 or 8 months, because I didn't have enough of a data set to track the data and say, you know, for every call I make $53 for every call that I make. And I make $200 for every conversation that I have. And I make, you know, $5,000 for every hour that I'm prospecting. Once you have those numbers dialed in, it's really not hard to get on the phone.
It's interesting, man. You have, so for me, and Curtis was a door knocker too. For me, when I was door knocking, I would have those numbers. Like I would track, and I could tell you how many times I had to talk to somebody. Well, how many people I would talk to in an hour, and out of the day, how many people I needed to talk to do a presentation. And then out of the presentations, how many people I needed to present to get a listing, right? And trust me, at the beginning, I sucked. I was getting 1 out of every 4 presentations, but it took time, right? So I like that approach. Tell me then, since you're already into it and you just pick up and dial, who do you love dialing right now that's making you the most money? Because that's what I want to do. If I'm starting back into this like everybody here, I want to call those. Who are they?
So expireds are always going to be the lowest hanging fruit, but you're going to have the lowest answer rate. So conversations are what makes you money, not necessarily the people that you're calling. But if I can have 11 conversations with
you got to say that again, though. I mean, that people have to understand what you just said.
Which part? Sorry,
conversations is what makes you money, not the type of lead that you are prospecting.
Yeah. The more, again, it goes back to no's. The more no's I can get, the closer I am to a yes. And I know that sounds super cliche because we hear it all the time in sales, but it is true. Expireds are always going to be my go-to first thing in the morning, though. And we could run through scripts if you want to on those.
Well, let's go slowly. Let's go with your first, which is expired. What time are you calling them? And then we'll go through scripts.
I just want to insert real quick before Kent bails from scripts. We'll get into the scripts of how to get the appointment right now. But Kent talks to people about pricing, which is a huge obstacle for people right now if they have a listing, better than anybody that I know. And so if we can make sure that that you could share some of your pricing scripts and how to talk to people about pricing, I think I mean, again, we got to talk about how to chase the tire, but now, I want people to understand, how do you get those listings sold? And I think that your pricing dialogues are just about better than anything I've heard. So, but
perfect. We can go into that for sure.
Let's talk a little bit though about how do you get the appointment,
so
some of that.
Here's what I want everyone to write down. This is, you don't get the appointment unless you ask for it. First off, like if you're waiting for someone else to do your job, you're going to not be very successful in this industry. Like you just have to ask for the appointment and ask for people to sign the contract and ask for people to do things. And it's uncomfortable, but if you don't ask, you don't get. So, Tristan, let's say you and I are having a conversation. This is kind of my go-to close over the phone. Tristan, based on what you said about wanting to move to Utah, it makes sense for us to get together. Would you have some time this afternoon, or would tomorrow be better?
Let's do tomorrow so I can tell my wife what I'm doing, or else I won't have a wife.
Yeah, and I absolutely want her to be there as well. See, so based on, if they're giving you information, based on that piece of information you get, it makes sense for us to get together. On the reverse of that, if they're not giving you information, I hate real estate agents,
Yes.
You call it, I hate realtors. I don't know. You just say, that's exactly why we need to get together.
So it's always the reason.
Yeah, that's exactly why we need to get together. Well, why? You hate agents. It sounds like you had a bad experience. Would you have some time? I'd love to change the perception of that. Would you have some time this afternoon or maybe tomorrow that we could get together?
Dude, I love how, and then we'll address Jessica's comment. But I love how this is what I want you all to pay attention to, because this is why we started with Kent. It's his tonality. It's like how I tell people to go onto social media and not fall into the media bait or any bait click that anybody's putting out. It's like, let's just stay neutral and use it as a business opportunity. Well, Kent is making all these calls and he's not falling for all these people's emotions. He knows his job is to maintain equilibrium and make sure that he does a good job every single time, or as many times as possible, in talking to people in the right tone to bring him into the world he wants to bring him into. And I think that piece is the piece that we miss, because I know some callers in real estate where they hear things like, and if you call enough, it's like, F you, who are you? And then the agent goes, well, F you too. And then they hang up, right? It's like, that's an option, but listen, that's not the option we're shooting for here, right? Because like you said earlier, it's all about having conversations and all about hearing no enough to convert. So let's go to Jessica's session comment. During calls, I freeze up and forget what to say. How do we address that piece? Because that happens often.
Role play. The only way to correct that is through role play. That's why you do it. Because what you all should be doing, honestly, if you want to be really effective with role play, put it into ChatGPT, say, give me every single objection, give me 3 minutes worth of objections. One role play partner goes and handles them. Like all you're doing is handling objections. Next role play partner goes, same thing, handles objections. And to get good at objections, repeat, massive approval, ask the next question, close.
Show me that.
Okay.
So no, I'm really not happy with my experience trying to sell my home in the last 6 months of real estate. I think I'm going to try it on my own.
Yeah. And I don't blame you. It sounds like you've had a pretty rough go at getting your house sold. And I understand wanting to try it on your own. And let me ask you this, Curtis. At the end of the day, if we can get you what you want in the time that you want, wouldn't it be worth 15 minutes of your time for us to get together?
You can't say no to this guy, Tristan.
Well, hold on. I want people to understand the overthinking piece, because when you join REDX, right? By the way, we're asking you to join us, right? Join REDX, please. You're going to learn a lot if you're not part of REDX. Not only do you get Curtis, not only do you get to listen to Kent, but we get to do a lot of different sessions here. And the thing that you'll always listen to is that Kent always sounds the same. He always sounds the same. And every time you're hearing Kent talk, doesn't matter if somebody's angry, it doesn't matter if somebody's happy, Kent sounds the same, right? He may change the way he says it, but it sounds the same. And the other piece to this is that this is my favorite part. The scripts aren't complicated, damn it. Like, have you listened to Kent? Like, he just says, oh, by the way, did you do this? Or, hey, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. When can I stop by? It's the same. It's like the easiest thing. And everybody overcomplicates it because, like, I don't know what to say. I'm like, have you listened to Kent? It's like the easiest scripts on the freaking planet. But the difference is he's been practicing them for so long. Right?
I'm loving this market because skills are starting to come in handy.
Yeah.
Like I'll be honest, 2022, 2021, I was like, holy cow, what am I even doing practicing? And now that I'm practicing, I'm like, now that I've practiced all these years, I'm like, I'm so grateful I have. Because getting listings is easy now. It's pricing them right to get them sold that's a little bit more difficult. What I would say is you should role play every single day. If you're not role playing, like you're going to get behind the 8 ball. And here's another thing I would say. If you want to make prospecting really easy, your number one job when you're calling is to get the appointment. Number 2 job is to pre-qualify to determine whether or not you want to go on the appointment. So you're not deciding whether you want to go on the appointment before you actually get it. Get the appointment first, pre-qualify, and decide whether or not you want to keep it.
Perfect. Okay, let's go into.
So I'm everybody loves Tristan when we do a webinar because we start making our team work by giving a ton of stuff away for free that we never planned on. I mean, isn't that true every time we get on?
I'm working on right now something.
We just don't have enough time, and Kent is so good.
It is good.
And I really want him to get into pricing stuff. So I'm gonna walk off frame, but we have a course in the REDX University that is Kent teaching how to talk on the phone, and he gives the script. He gives all of the scripts. There's downloads for the scripts, everything. I'm going to go get a link for that because there's just not enough time. We could spend the whole 3 hours of doing an event with just Kent and scripts and dialogues, but if people have a listing right now, they have to listen to Kent's pricing.
Yep.
Because right now that's the challenge, right? I mean, there was an article yesterday that said, and I don't know what market this is from, but it was 50% of the people are pulling their homes off the market because they're frustrated that it's not selling, right?
I saw that article.
The only thing that's selling are homes that are priced right.
Which means to me, by the way, go off. I'm
going to go find a link so everybody can enjoy the training.
This is what it means to me, guys, as Curtis comes back and we go to Kent. It means that our skill level needs to increase on how to talk to people to match. I'm going to go back to that one comment by Monica, because check out what Monica is saying. Kent, this is real. I'm struggling with a ton of objections in Southwest Florida due to the rising insurance, multiple hurricanes, and rising HOA, along with a ton of inventory. How do we overcome this market or objections like this?
Price. Price fixes all your problems. Like, I would love to tell you that your marketing and doing some sort of fancy marketing is going to get a home sold. It's just isn't. It's price. There is a little bit of answering your phone as an agent, giving different information, pre-framing the buyer's agents. I think one thing that a lot of listing agents don't get is it's a collaboration with agents, and buyer's agents are their greatest asset and their greatest tool. So the more you collaborate with them, tell them what to tell their seller or what to tell their buyers to say, the easier it's going to be for you to get into to price it right and to get the home actually sold.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. All right. I like that answer. All right. Let's see where Curtis is, because I want to role play with you a little bit. You're telling me expireds. Okay. Let's go with expireds. With pricing being the challenge. Like I'm not realistic on price, but I'm not also going to shut you down, just so we can go through the process. And then also, what time do you typically call expireds?
7:50.
7:50. Okay. So you get right in there before, and then what time do you typically stop?
Just as soon as I call all the initial ones, and then I'll come back in. I typically have role play at 8:30. So it takes me 15, 20 minutes to call through all the brand new expireds.
How long? Sorry?
15 to 20 minutes.
Okay, good.
In our market.
Perfect.
But then I'll call them again at 8:15, and then I'll call them again before I leave for the day.
So you call them 3 times. So you're calling them back to back in the morning. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then what time are you calling them in the late afternoon or close to evening?
It's later afternoon, like 12 o'clock.
Okay, got it.
And then one time a week I'll do a prospecting session in the evening, just to catch anybody that's working and doesn't answer their phone.
All right, let's get into this one. I am going to ask you, just in case I forget, and guys, help me remember this one, because I know you all want this. I want to know Kent's schedule of when he's calling what. So remind me if I forget to ask him this. I'm going to write it down, but I may forget. Okay, Kent. Curtis is back. We're going to go into scripting. Curtis, you good?
Yeah, go. I'm still working on it. Apparently they have to build something because I want to give it away to everybody for free. So stand by for that.
So
all right, here we go.
So can I go? I know we only have like 6 minutes, 7 minutes. I wish we had an hour to go over this.
We do have an hour if people sign up. So there you go.
Oh, there we go.
Because they're on the back end.
Yeah, there you go. One thing I want to talk about though is pricing and the pricing presentation and how to do price.
Okay.
I think that one thing, so I just want to go into a couple of strategies, but if I could share one thing with you,
do it.
There are 3 strategies when pricing a home, and you have to be really clear with how you're going to strategize with your client. And you kind of just let them choose what they're going to choose as far as it goes with price. So Tristan, I'm going to role play with you for a minute.
Go for it.
So Tristan, we really have 3 different strategies that we can use when pricing your home. The first pricing strategy I like to call aspirational. It's all of the actives on the market right now, meaning you're going to price it needle in the haystack number, hope to set a new market high when pricing your home. And I want to be super clear. It's not my favorite strategy.
Got it.
And here's the reason why. If you market it, if you price it aspirationally and are hoping to get some pie in the sky number, and your home sits on the market for a long period of time, what do people start thinking about your home?
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they won't. They'll think, what's wrong with it? That's the first thing.
What's wrong with it? It's overpriced, right? They'll start thinking of all of the negatives about your home. Yeah. So it's certainly an option. Typically, if we go that route, we'll try it out for 2 weeks and then we drop the price from there. Again, there is consequences with that. And the consequences are if we sit on the market for a long period of time and we drop it later, we're just chasing the market down. And your final asking or the final price offer that you're going to get is usually quite a bit lower. So that's the first strategy that we can go with.
Okay. What's number 2? Because I don't want to give away my home either.
No. And can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I've never given away a home. So
that's funny, dude. I've never heard that one. Okay, continue.
The second strategy that we can use is we can use the comparable strategy. So it's all of the comps that are currently on the market right now that are pending. Because actives are what haven't happened in the market. They're the future market. Pendings are what's happening right now in the market, today's market. And then the solds are what happened 6 months ago. So if we go to comparable sell marketing, what we're going to do is we're pricing it where the bank wants it priced. So we're going to look at all the pendings and solds. Because at the end of the day, the home has to get appraised, right?
Yeah.
And do you know who the appraiser works for?
Who?
The bank.
Got it.
The appraiser's there to protect the bank. So even though you want this really high number, if the bank doesn't want to loan that, are you going to get that high number?
Probably not. Unless somebody comes in with cash.
Yeah, which could happen. But if someone comes in with cash and they offer $500 and they say, I want it for $500,000 and they have a, what do you call those people? Holy cow.
Financial advisor?
Financial advisor. It's going to click some red flags with the financial advisor and they're probably going to tell them to get an appraisal on the property.
So before you go to 1, my response to that one is usually, yeah, it's true. When you get cash offers, that could definitely skew the whole thing. But who do you know that's offered cash for over asking? That's what I would say. And they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. They're usually getting a deal. I'm like, yeah.
No one does.
Yeah.
All right. Super rare. And then the last strategy that we can use, I like to call it the auction effect. So we're going to look at all of the active properties on the market that are similar to yours, and we're going to be the lowest priced one.
But doesn't that give away my home? I don't want to give away my home. I mean, you said you don't give away homes, but that certainly sounds like we're going to just give it away.
Right. And at the end of the day, Tristan, this one is not my favorite either. And can I tell you why?
Please.
Because it's not my favorite if you're not trying to move quickly. If you don't absolutely have to sell it, or if there's something wrong with your property, you might want to look at this option. But I mean, your house looks great. It doesn't need a lot of upgrades. It doesn't need anything done to it. So I'm not going to suggest that we go with this price, because at the end of the day, if we go at this price, people are looking to get a deal, not necessarily pay you more and get into a bidding war.
Got it.
People are not in the mind frame of going into a bidding war.
All right, pause really quick. Would you go into this one too in a market like who made that great comment earlier? When she was saying she's in South Florida where she's got a lot of inventory. Remember that one? And prices are going down a little bit more. Would you tweak number 3 a little bit and say, since we're in a market that's going down, was that Monica? Yeah. would you say maybe the auction effect is best in a declining market or no? How would you approach that?
Not necessarily. So we have the needle in the haystack pricing, which is like, I want something higher than the market's giving me. We have fair market value. Now, Tristan, if we go fair market value, we're exactly that. We're not higher than everybody else. We're not lower than everybody else. We're just kind of right in the middle. Now, really, what we have to look at, Tristan, is the amount of showings that you're going to get. And then from there, because at the end of the day, we're not putting a value on your home right now. That's not what we're doing. Yeah. We're creating a strategy to get people in and bringing it to the market. Because you're not buying your home again, are you?
No.
And I'm not buying your home, and neither is any agent that you're meeting with. The market's buying your home. So we're trying to decide today, right now, where we want to present your home price-wise to the market.
Got it. All right.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
So if we go with the middle option, the fair market value price, where banks are looking to justify the price of your home, where it will appraise, we're looking somewhere between this range. I never show comps. I just don't. When you show comps to people, it just confuses them.
Oh, what do you do? I'm going to bring on Rachel too, so you could you can kind of merge with her. But what do you do? What do you do typically?
Hey, Rachel, sorry, we're going over. So typically I'll just say this. Best I can tell, you're right in this range at fair market value.
Okay. Do you do you showcase the other properties as you're going through comparables? You're like, this is pending. These are the active, right?
You can if you want to. So here's how I would put it. If you're dealing with an analytical person, yes.
Got it.
If you're dealing with an expressive, which I am, a driver or an amiable, don't confuse them. Like, it will give them decision fatigue.
That is so true. I've watched that happen.
If you're showing them a bunch of comps and then like, okay, make a decision. So we're going to walk them through those 3 steps. Based off what you're trying to do and when you're trying to do it, Tristan, which one of these strategies do you feel like will work best for you and your family?
Probably number 2.
Number 2. Okay. So now that we've decided on a price, it's going to be, and you should always say this, now that we've decided on a price, it's going to be really interesting to see how the market responds. And the market responds one of 4 ways. Can I tell you?
Please.
The first way the market's going to respond is it's going to respond really positively to our price. And we're going to average over 2 showings per day for the first 10 days. And we're typically going to have multiple offers within the first 10 days.
That's favorable.
Market. That's super favorable. We like that because it allows me to do what I do best, which is negotiate the highest price possible for you. Or, and this is our goal, really, Tristan, is we're going to average 1 showing per day or 5 showings per week. We want a showing per business day. And we're typically in this market going to have an offer within the first 14 days on market. And that offer, your first offer is typically your best one, and that's going to be where fair market value is.
I like
third
that.
Third way the market responds is we'll get 1 showing every other day, maybe every 3 days. Feedback is on price, condition, or location, which all of that comes back down to price. And that typically tells us we're in the ballpark, but we're probably still 3 to 5% off on price.
Got it.
And then the last way the market responds is it just tells us that we're priced way too high. We're getting we might get 1 or 2 showings, if any showings at all. And then we're definitely not getting any offers, and our feedback is pretty poor on any showings that we've had. But either way, Tristan, what you and I are going to do is every 10 days or every week, every Thursday, you and I are going to get on a call. I'll call you between 9 and 11, and we're going to go over how the market's responding. And then you have 1 decision to make from there. Can I tell you what that is?
What is that?
It's either to hold tight for another week or to lower the price to match where the market's going and to see if we can get more showings. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
The brilliance is to me, in that second part of that is it's how the market responds. These are facts.
Yeah.
You know, and this isn't my opinion. This isn't Kent saying I think it might be priced too high. It's saying if the market responds this way, the fact is we're overpriced, we're underpriced, or we're priced right.
Yeah.
So
and it just makes your conversations a lot easier, because then you present, this is the kind of activity we've had. And if the activity's low, you can say, hey, the activity's been low 2 weeks in a row. We need to adjust the price and get the buyer and meet the buyers where they're at.
Very true. All right, let's jump over to.
I've got the link just to wrap this up. I've got the link. I have a course where Kent is going to go through your scripts and dialogues for expireds, for sell by owners, for rent by owners, neighborhood prospecting, pre-foreclosures, and I got him to give it away for free. So I've got the link. I don't know the best way to share the link. I'm going to post it right here in the chat.
Yeah, just post it, and then I'll everyone just grab that link.
Kent and Jonathan. Jonathan works for REDX, but he's been in the industry for 15 years, also training agents. So he and Kent do a lot of role playing in the course. So there's a lot of videos of actual role playing.
Perfect. And the link, can't click the link. Do me a favor.
Copy and paste it.
My team on the back end, can we just post how to sign up for REDX? Those that want to sign up, we'll send them those. And then we'll also send everybody who watched this live, we'll send it to you once we're done. We'll send that link. So there we go. Perfect. And then let's showcase. There we go. Perfect. Okay, let me switch Rachel. There we go. She's at the top now. All right. Rachel, welcome. How are you? Thanks for doing this.
Hey, good. How are you doing? Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Excited to talk to you and to Kent again, this time on lead warm up and just warm up in general. Could you do a quick intro as to who you are, what area you cover?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Rachel.
All right. I'm Rachel Warrell. I am a real estate in Northwest Florida. So that's Panama City Beach, 38, Destin. I primarily sell vacation properties, income generating properties as well. So investment properties. My niche is luxury and also investors. So that's my thing.
Got it. How's your market
Living the dream,
right now?
selling the dream.
I like that. How's your market right now?
Whoa, let me tell you what. So here's the deal. Nobody needs a second home. No one needs a vacation rental, right? A condo, which I'm in a unique part of Florida. So if we have condos, they are actually like they're zoned for vacation rentals. I don't have a lot of condos in my market that are primary residences. So when you read the Wall Street Journal articles about affordability and whether Fannie or Freddie will finance those, that doesn't necessarily apply to my market. But so how is my market? Actually just sent out my weekly email to my sellers, updating them on the latest condo stats, and inventory is climbing. Transactions are quite low. That doesn't mean that people are not buying, but they are very price sensitive.
Got it. All right. So then it comes down to, again, skills, right? How are you approaching
100%. I mean, 100%. It comes down to skills. And what I mean by skills is not necessarily objection handlers or anything like that. That's not my style, right? If someone calls me up, which they usually do, like I will call expireds. I love calling old expired. So if you guys don't have REDX old expired data, like get on that now. Like you should have been on that like years ago. But anyways, when I'm calling people and their property came off the market, I don't care if it came off yesterday or if it came off 2 years ago, right? My first question is, this place is amazing. Like, what in the world were you, considering selling? Like, what's going on? Because if I don't have their why, and if I don't let them know that I actually care about their goals and what they're trying to do, then at the end of the day, I'm just some other, that your status quo agent, some sleazy like closer, right? So I get down to the root of it. Sometimes people are financially drained. They are tired of the property taxes. They are tired of the high condo dues. But sometimes you've got people that like, my husband died or my husband's sick, right? And if that's the case, my motivation or, my strategy for helping that person is different than someone who's like, well, I don't know. If we could get this price, we would sell it, right? Those are two different animals.
Yeah, very true.
Kent, isn't it you that always says your job as an agent is to sell their why back to them?
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't know their where, their when, their why, you don't have a lead. That's me. I need to know where you're going, when you're doing it, why you're doing it. And if I know those three things, real estate agents struggle following up because they don't know those three things and they have nothing to follow up with.
And so I'm also not the type of person that's going to be like, go for the appointment, right? If someone's telling me like, we're going to hold off, we're getting a lot of money right now, it's summer, it's peak, we'll think about it later. I'm like, all right, cool. Sounds like you got a plan. Is it all right if I send you my contact information? And, if you need me down the road, you got me. Then they're on my market updates, which are very custom, which are very, like it lets them know what is happening. Because again, I work with investors, right? They live like all around the world, all around the country. So they don't know what's going on in our market because what's happening in my market could be totally different from what's happening in their local real estate market, right?
True.
Because what Midwest is still popping, like up north, inventory is still low. Like it's totally different there than it is here. So it's my job to keep them updated on what's going on here, and let them know I'm here, I'm working. If you need me, call me, right?
So who are you right now in this market? Who are you finding the most success with dialing?
I mean, what do you determine as success? Like, are you saying like listings are success, closings are success?
Well, I would say let's go for listings because if we have the right skill set, we can price them correctly, right? So how are you getting the most listings right now?
No, again, you go back to that client's why. So if they're not motivated necessarily, I've got almost 30 listings. I'm one person. Okay, so if you want to quantify that as success, like I'm great, but am I closing things? Not necessarily. And I have been like, I'll get things under contract and they'll fall apart because buyers will get cold feet. So I say I'm extremely busy, not closing anything, negotiating my face off.
That's okay. That's great. I love where you're at because you're right in the middle of it. Right. And that's the reality of where a lot of agents are right now. But how are you getting these listings? Let's take one step back. How are you getting
calls and brand? So they also see my social media, which is, I believe, what this topic is about. Like, how do you warm them up? First of all, I am the most like charming, not charming necessarily, but very genuine, authentic person. Like I want to know what is going on in their life to have them thinking about buying or selling real estate. Like what is going on? So they know, like when they talk to me, I know what I'm talking about, but they also know that I care. Right. But then that also translates to like I cold call. I mean, that's the majority of like where my business comes from. But then they'll Google me. They're like, who is this Rachel Warrell? Like, who is she? And they'll Google me and then they'll see my social media, which is extremely professional. Like the presentation is always good because again, I told you I'm selling the dream, right? So I need to project that. So I don't care if you're in Canada, I have the most beautiful beaches in the world. Like, you know, that you're like, ooh, I've never been there, but what's going on? So from there, I believe it gives me credibility. But I think there were some really good, one-liners. Embrace the suck. Like, I love it. I'm like right there. I'm like, yes, I'm like all about that right now, right? But then I'm also, oh, what was the other one that I heard? That I forgot. Sorry, ADD. My bad.
About your job being to sell their why back to them. That was a good one too.
Yeah, I didn't say that, and I don't want to say, sometimes it's helpful to remind them of what's going on, but usually, they know. Like if their husband's dying of cancer, and I tell them, hey, here's the price, and I'm saying, like, they make that decision for themselves. I give them the information that they need to make the best decision for them, you know. But I would say I'm not a very like pushy person, but people come to me. And then with the listing appointments, like I really never do a listing appointment. Like they already call me. They know what I do. They get my weekly emails. They see my marketing. I'm usually the only one that's on the interview.
That's where I would like to jump in a little bit. Just me knowing you, Rachel, and knowing your social media presence, the brand that you have created online. Mm-hmm. And just to jump in, I think Rachel is the perfect example of the remix. It's why we wanted her to come on is, she still picks up the phone and calls. She understands I have to have a bunch of conversations. But she said the secret, and maybe, so I'm just going to point it out, is she said, well, then, they Google me, and she has all of this marketing presence. So it's prospecting based, but marketing supported, so that it gives her a brand and reputation that people want to do business with, which I think all of us would love to get to the point where we could say, there's nobody else doing the interviews, but what Rachel has put into her online presence is the reason why she's the only interview, is because she recognizes the marketing does this, but I still recognize I still am going to proactively go out and find the opportunities. So in terms of a remix of taking traditional prospecting methods with new, I just want to talk a little bit more about that, about how your social media and stuff makes the prospecting easier or better results in the prospecting. And do you feel like it, the topic was start warmer, close faster. How does your marketing efforts, your social media, your Instagram affect how warm those conversations end up being?
I kind of want to maybe edit that. I guess tagline first. I would say, okay, so conversations. That was the tagline I was trying to remember, right? Conversations, which is what was mentioned earlier. Okay, conversations. I don't start out a cold call cold ever, right? The conversation is warm in and of itself. They genuinely like me whenever they get off the phone with me.
Yeah.
That prompts them to Google. Also, whenever I am making my calls, and let's say somebody doesn't pick up, I leave them a personalized voicemail every time, which I know some people don't do it. Sometimes they drop them. Sometimes, like the first speaker, he calls them back. I don't. I'm like, hey, I don't know if I got the right number. This is Rachel Warrell. I'm a real estate agent here in Panama City Beach, calling about this condo over here, Palazzo Unit 1720. Anyways, give me a quick call when you get a second, my cell phone number, and I say that, right? So they're like, does she have the right number? They call me back, or most of the time they Google me before they call me, which I think is the clutch, right? Where they'll call me back because of my social media, but then also like I took that extra time to do the personalized voicemail. Like, hey, I don't know if you're the owner or not, but anyways, give me a quick call, which 9 times out of 10, they are the owner or they're related to the owner. And then it's over there. And then I just gauge it based on their motivation. Like sometimes they're like, yeah, I've got to sell this, something's going on financially, something's going on with my family, like whatever. But most of the time, so I think the conversations are everything, because if you don't know how to talk to people, even if they meet you in person, if that's not translating, your job as a real estate agent is to help people, and that needs to be conveyed immediately on that phone call, right? And your social media, you need to be backed up by credibility, right? Like, oh, whoa, she's out here working. I want, when they see my social media, they want to feel special like that too. They want their property shown off like how I show off my other properties. So I want to make sure my client feels special. I want to make sure they know they're the star. I'm not.
I love that. You put them first. It goes with the same theme Kent was saying. And when people Google you, I just Googled you, right? But I think we all should try Googling ourselves here who are on this session to see what pops up first. And I noticed the very first three for yours. Number one, your main website, like your website. And then Instagram is number two, right? And then Zillow, Facebook, and YouTube. So that's a great mix of social media with some actual websites, right? So then when people go and take a look at Rachel on Instagram, like what are they going to find, right? And for most people, I don't know that they'll find anything that will pull them in or warm them up.
And to your point, the people that say like, oh, I don't have time for social media, it's not important, like I don't want to do Instagram, blah blah blah. Like, well, when they Google you and they see that, that's important. That's your SEO, your search engine optimization. So you need to be doing that stuff. I mean, are you doing it for fun? You know, like this is business, right? You know, you don't need to be on social media. And I try and keep my social media like, sometimes I'll add in something funny or personal, but most of the time, like, you know, it's all business, right? But that is important. Social media is important. It's a factor.
Yeah, which we'll show you a little bit later how we're doing social media as well, and the retargeting and bringing people back through Meta as well. All right, so when people reach out to you, Rachel, and you're talking to them, what do you think is the key factor in connecting with them so quickly once you're talking to them?
Okay, so their first thing out of my mouth is, hey, Rachel, I own this property here. They give me the address. We're thinking about selling. Right? The first thing out of my mouth.
That's what I need, Curtis. Kent, I need that.
Like, boom, like the second thing out of my mouth, or no, the first thing out of my mouth after they tell me, they're like, hey, Rachel, I own this. We're thinking about selling. And my first question, oh, well, what's got you thinking about selling?
Yeah.
What's going on?
So then tell me your combination of getting to that point. You know, we understand that it's online.
That is the equation.
So let's get specific though. I want, like, if you are on Instagram, are you also on Facebook, TikTok, newsletters,
LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
And then let's go into some details. So what's your cadence? Like, where do you post the most and what do you post?
I'm a freak. Okay. So I post Monday through Friday, every single day of the week on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. Did I do LinkedIn? YouTube? I post on all of them.
That's what I was hoping you would say, by the way. I love that.
I mean, I do.
It just goes to show, like, when we're in this business and we found a niche, and it's for Rachel, it's a combination of things. But when we found a niche, we need to show up consistently over a long period of time, and it looks really awkward for people looking in sometimes. They're like, but every day, multiple times a day? Like, yeah, every day.
And before, so like now I've actually used REDX's social media, right? So it's like all automated, like I do that. Before I had that, I would wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, draft my social media posts, and I will post them myself every single day because I didn't want it to get in the way of my lead gen or doing, closing deals, negotiating offers, going on appointments. Like I treated that like as a priority, right? But I would say, and maybe your original question was like, how often do I post, or like, how does it come that people call me and say, hey, Rachel, we want to list our property. We own here. We want to list our property. And like, where did those people find me?
Where do those people find you?
So I would say the majority of those people call me because I called them first. I made a very good impression. They get my updates. They Google me. They see my work, right? They're in my stratosphere. I would say a very small percentage, I'm not going to say none, but a small percentage of like my book of business comes from people that saw, well, I did have a lady call me. She was like, hey, Rachel, it's Kathy. I saw you on TikTok, and she wanted to talk about one of my listings, right? So it happens, right? But I would say the majority of my business comes from those conversations. And what I love about being able to call these people first is that I am honing in on my seller avatar. Like I'm only calling people, I'm not calling the trailer park, okay? I'm calling the listings like I really, really want. Now, if I wanted to, which a lot of people make money on flips and stuff like that, which not, but if that's your niche, call those people. But my niche, I can be very controlled about my business, very controlled. And my business is the property that I want to sell.
Got it. I love that. And then who are you calling, just to get clear? Where are you getting these numbers? Who are you reaching out to that they're calling you back?
So I either circle prospect, right? So using that geo lead. So I've done that over and over again, and also expireds, right? But I can still be selective on which expireds I call.
You mentioned
like if it's
old
not a property
expired.
that if it's a property I don't want, that I don't call.
Yeah, I like that. You mentioned old expireds at the beginning, right?
Mm.
What is that? How far do you go back?
Okay, so oh my gosh. Okay, so to be honest with you, right now in my business, I am one person, so I only get to make like actual cold calls like 4 times a month, right? So once a week, like on a Monday, like I'm calling those, just to do it, right? But most of the time that they call me, but I went back 10 years before, and I'm telling you, like when I
Wow.
first got REDX, the old expireds, I called 10 years back, and let me tell you what. A lot of people are scared to call expireds. I know I was, right? Because you only, like the fresh ones, you only get like this much, right? And most of it, there's probably like 10 agents or more calling those people, and you are competing, and you better get that appointment, because guess what? If you don't get that appointment, you're not getting that listing, right? So my strategy is like, if you own property in my market, if you own the kind of property in my market, like I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to be your best friend. I want to be your go-to, period. So I like it because if you're calling an old expired, even if they expired 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, you're just like, hey, I don't know if I got the right number. This is Rachel Warrell. I'm a real estate agent here, and you say you're in market looking for the owner of this property. You say the address, and you're like, is that you? You know what I mean? And they'll be like, yes. Like, oh, perfect. Just what I was looking for. How you doing? Happy Monday, or happy, usually I call them Monday. So I'm like, happy Monday, by the way. They go, ha ha ha. Anyways, real quick. I was calling. I saw you had your property on the market like a while ago. And then it's off. Like, what happened with it? What's the story with it? Right? And then I'll hear about it. Like, put it on the market, didn't sell, whatever. We gave up. Or the deal fell apart, or we didn't get that job or whatever, right? And then I just get their contact information. I do the weekly email, and then they randomly call me. Like, I'm telling you, I've got people that are calling me I haven't talked to in 3 years, 5 years. Totally forgot about them. They're like, "Hey, Rachel, we want a list." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Um, I'm not in front of my computer. Which one do you own again?" Like, I have no idea who they are. No
That's
clue.
true.
But they call me like I'm their best friend.
Well, that you built this whole process, and you're so easy to talk to. So over the phone, that makes it so much easier to connect, right? Like non-threatening.
Well, I mean, while we wrap up with both Kent and Rachel, on that note, I think that's common. We've mentioned that both Kent in the role playing, he's smooth. He's how do you take someone? I know people are asking this, and I know it's a little tangential to what our topic was, but I think it's important. How do you take someone who's afraid? I'm nervous. I'm fearful. And I'm going to get on the phone. How do you take someone that's in that state and get them to feel and sound relaxed and calm and easy to talk to? I'd love to hear from both of you on that one.
My first thing is everyone has those, right? So just practice, and you'll eventually learn, right? I'm a female. Okay, so usually when females get nervous, maybe their voice goes up, or maybe they kind of sound like this on the phone. I'm like, you are not a little girl. You are a professional woman, right? And you are calling to see what's going on with their property. That is your job. You need to get that out of your head, first of all. Like, you're doing your job. And then also you better have, just like you need to know your seller's why, you need to know your why. Is it so your kid can eat? Right? What, you scared to feed your family? Like, what are you scared of?
Yeah. Kent, any advice?
I don't think that call reluctancy ever goes away. I still have it, honestly. I'm just, at the end of the day, though, you become less attached to the outcome the more money you have in the bank. The more desperate you are, the more it comes off. So my advice isn't going to sound great, but have 6 months of savings in the bank before you go full time into real estate and get on the phones and call, because it's going to take that long for the wins to start stacking up.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, guys. And I love that. And then, yes, we'll show you how to role play with ChatGPT in a little bit. We'll do it live.
We also have a role play line for customers. We have a phone number that people can call into. They talk to a real human being. You choose what lead type you're practicing. You talk to a real human being. You role play. They will not break character, which is awesome, because if you're like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" It's as real as possible. You even choose the difficulty of setting the appointment, like whether it's going to be really hard or not, and that essentially is how many objections they're going to throw at you. So you should always pick the hardest difficulty. And then you get a recording of the call, because then you can take that recording, take the transcript, and upload that into ChatGPT and say, how could I have done better?
Yeah, dude. Yes. And it all comes down to the practice, because just like Rachel and Kent said, that fear, that slight little fear of calling people, it's never going to go away.
Yeah.
Unless you're a freak of nature. But I still have the fear, like when I'm calling expireds or for sale by others, I still get that. So,
but doesn't that feel nice though? I love butterflies in my stomach. I like it.
It reminds me that I'm doing something that's going to bring challenges, and that means it's going to be worth it for me. Yeah. That's how I've translated it.
Yep. You don't ever grow in comfort.
I think data gets rid of drama too. The more data you have, the less drama you're going to have in making those calls. So one thing that we're doing, and I think this is why it's been a successful year for us, is I don't work with anybody that's not a 9 or a 10 on the Y Richter scale. I'm looking for death, divorce, diapers, meaning they're upsizing because they're having more kids, or downsizing. So the 4Ds: death, divorce, diapers, downsizing.
The 4D.
I have to move. I have to move, in other words. And if they don't have to, sorry, this market ain't for you. This is not a greed market. This is a need market.
Yeah.
If you're looking for,
take
if
a
you're looking,
different approach. If you own property that I want to sell, we're friends, right? Call me when you need me. I'll list it. I do not care.
Yeah.
That's why you have 30 listings and they're not selling though.
No, that's because
Florida.
of the market and the inventory, but they
Florida's
will eventually
crazy.
sell. This
Yeah.
market will switch, and then
well, and I
they'll
look
be
at
gone.
your average days on market in Florida are 127.
So for what property type? Yeah. I mean, it's even worse for condos. And depending on the building or whatever, but listen, this is a long game, right? And if I got a bunch of listings that aren't selling, I'm going to go get more. It's all
Well,
good.
that's a whole nother topic that we don't have time for.
Rachel,
it's like, well, how do you follow up with these people long term, right?
People are also
CRM.
calling. So you're getting buyers from these too, possible buyers. So that's what I love. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Kent, what were the four? I had a question somewhere else. What were the four Ds that you said?
Death, divorce, diapers, downsize.
Death, divorce, diapers, downsize for that person who asked. There you go.
And don't forget diamonds when you get married.
Diamonds.
Oh, I like that. There's
Okay,
five.
hold on. Wait. That's awesome. So that's 5. Kent, Rachel just upped you. There you go.
Hey, I'm in Utah though. People get married at 18 years old. So
Yeah. No money for a first home.
He never said real diamonds, Ken. Okay?
Yeah, that's
diamonds.
Okay.
You're going to be popping out kids. You're going to need a place to live.
Yeah.
All right. So what were the 5 then?
Death, divorce, diapers, which is upsizing.
Yeah.
Death, divorce, diapers, downsize, diamonds.
Nice. I love it. Rachel, that was awesome. Thank you for being on. I appreciate
Rachel and Kent, thanks. I just wanted to one more plug because Rachel mentioned very briefly that she's using one of REDX's tools, Brand Builder, to help with her social media content creation and posting. And
I love it.
And just the QR code that we keep posting, if you go there and you go to products, it's called Brand Builder. I was looking at diamonds spelled wrong on that last pop-up there, Tristan.
Hey, I didn't do that.
Yeah, so if you go there, it's called Brand Builder. It's a cool app with the teleprompter. You can make your videos there. There's AI scripting if you're scared what to do. And then there's video editors, but then there's also people who can manage all the posting on 5 platforms. So, Rachel is still at the heart of all strategy, all the content. It's her voice, it's her, face. And it's just, she's leveraging systems and tools to make sure that she can be more efficient and focus her time on the conversations with people. So anyway, just wanted to put that plug in there. But yeah, thanks, Kent and Rachel. Do you have anything else for them, Tristan?
We do. One more thing. I just remembered to put it in my notes. Kent, what's your schedule like in the morning? Because you were going to go through, after you call expireds, new expireds, you call new expireds again. What's the process?
Your lead stack. Oh, I'd love to hear that from Rachel also.
Yeah.
What's your lead stack?
So my job every day is to get a qualified listing appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And listing appointments come from expireds and follow-up. So I do expireds, then I do all my follow-up. And then from there for rent by owners, then circle prospecting, just listed, just sold, and then follow-up again.
And then how long is this process for you every day?
So I'm usually 8 to 11.
Okay.
Well, what people may not know, and you can go find Kent's social media on this, but he did 1,000 dials a day. He was going to do 100 days, but he did 1,000 dials a day, made it 53 days of doing 1,000 phone calls a day. Sometimes that took him 6 to 8 hours to do, but he also made $177,000 in commissions in 53 days from doing 1,000
Dude,
So,
it was worth it.
So
that's crazy. 53 days, 1,000 dials a day.
Yeah.
How many people? All right, so let's scale back a little bit to your 8 to 11. How many people are you finding home?
Am I talking to
Yeah, that you
per
talk
day?
to. Huh?
On average, 10 people an hour.
10 an hour. And then are you on the multi-dial
Yeah.
dialer?
Yep, I do 3-line.
Perfect. 10
I
an
may or
hour.
may not call the DNC.
he does not.
It does not call the DNC. I
That
know
would
that
be
for a
that would
fact.
be a big risk.
Yeah. I just told everybody here, do not
Life's all
call the
about risk, Curtis.
Not here, buddy. Not here. Listen, do not call the DNC. Go and knock on the damn door. Okay. That's what I do.
Well, just to address DNC, and we don't need to just one sentence here. 50% of the phone numbers are not on the DNC, and the percentage of connection rates of non-do not call versus do not call are within 1%.
Yeah.
So
I did for the first 10 days of that challenge. I didn't call anybody on the DNC,
Perfect.
and it was pretty in line.
Yeah, I like that.
So there's plenty of opportunity. Plus, there's social media, and there's postcards, and there's door knocking, and there's everything else you could do for the other people that you're not, and nobody's doing a lot of those things. So they're on the do not call.
Curtis, I've got to run a straight line here on my end in California. We're like the most litigious state in the freaking planet.
Yep.
Right.
Florida's right behind you because they have their state TCPA stuff.
Yeah. So there you go. I cannot call somebody on the DNC in my state because if I call the wrong person, I'm done. And so is the brokerage, right? Because you just saw the 2 lawsuits coming up for KW and Compass last month. Yep. So that for us, it's not something light that we can do. So hands down, we do not do it. And Rachel, give me your lead stack.
Okay. So when I was new, right? Like when I didn't have my book of business, I would call at least 3 hours a day, 3 days a week. I mean, but I usually did more because if you're not going on an appointment or negotiating an offer, you need to be on the phones. So during COVID, when everything was shut down, I would make calls 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. My conversion rate is usually 10% of the pickup rate, and that doesn't include the people that call me back. And then I'll get half or more of those people to trust me enough to give me their email, and then I stay in touch with them, and then they list with me eventually, even if it's 3 years or 5 years later.
And is that all expireds, or do you call any other?
No, so I've done all of it, right? And I really, really like Kent's strategy of diversifying your lead source. So I used to be very circle prospect heavy, and I still will. If I've got a buyer that has to have this building or in this neighborhood, I will circle prospect. But expireds, and I love old expireds. I used to do FSBOs back in the day, but I'm a woman. I've the most horrible, scary situations I've ever come across have been FSBOs. So I really don't do FSBOs anymore, but you can. I mean, I've gotten listings from them before, and I've also thought I was going to die. So,
we don't do FSBOs. We don't do FSBOs because we're expressives and don't like working with analyticals.
They really are narcissists. They're either just testing the market or they're straight narcissists, or serial killers.
So true, guys.
You don't know.
I love that. All right. Thank you so much for being on. We're going to continue this conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Rachel, that was really good. Kent, same. Very impressed with both of you. We'd love to have you on again when we do this. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's continue this conversation. Curtis, I want to show a little bit of ChatGPT because I know AI. Kent brought it up earlier where you could practice with AI, right? I've got a prompt that we've been using. So what I would suggest is everybody who's with REDX, and everybody who's going to be with REDX, if you guys can put the little QR code at the bottom so people could sign up. you get this number that I've tried multiple times. I actually recorded one whole live session calling on the spot. And I chose the hard one because the hard one works like this. You say, I choose option 3, which is the hardest, means you're going to get this person objecting to you 3 times, live person. So they're going to say no to you 3 times. Nope, not interested. No, not really. No, sorry. So you're practicing. But what I would do is I'd do exactly what Curtis said, grab the transcript, put it into ChatGPT, and then have it recreate a prompt for you. But on top of that, I've got a prompt that I'll share with you, and you can practice with ChatGPT so that you could choose to have an expired, for sale by owner, just list it's just sold. It doesn't matter which route you go. But the idea is, I'm going to put this up on my screen so people can see the prompt, because I'm going to run it live on my phone so that you guys can hear it better. All right, let me share my screen. And Curtis and I always love to do this, where we just go off on a tangent and we're like, surprise, everybody. This wasn't on the schedule, but now we're going to talk about it. So let me see if we can zoom in there a little bit more. I'm going to create a Google Doc so I can share this with you. And for everybody that's on here, we'll send this out as well with that link that Curtis shared with us, that link that had the university, where it had, who was it? Kent and who else on there, Curtis? That was going...
Jonathan Matwire.
Jonathan, that's it.
Yep.
So what you want to do is, if you read this, because I'm going to read this with you, all right? If you read this, you're able to see here. Let me dive in deeper. It says you are a seller GPT, so you can change it to whatever you want, right? A homeowner whose listing expired. We will speak back and forth in voice mode. That means you're going to hear me. Keep each reply brief and conversational, 1 or 2 sentences, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes, step 1, at the start, randomly choose relist timeline. So I'm leaving it up to them, right? I'm going to relist in 30 days or 90 days or whatever. And then they have a price point. And look at the key motivating factors, right? Relocating, downsizing, financial pressure. I'm leaving it up to them, to AI, which is crazy. And then they'll give me their address, which I usually call up and say, hi, is this the owner of 123 Main Street or whatever? And then step 3, throughout the call, sprinkle in common seller objections. I might go back to my last agent, which that means I have to be prepared for this, and you do too. I'm thinking about renting instead. And we just went through the ones that I usually go through. That's what I added. And then stay in character until, this is the cool part, until I say pause. And then it gives me feedback instantly where I'm at, and I can have it resume. And then when I say end, it'll give me a grade 0 to 10. And to me, I mean, dude, the grades back to me, because the very first time I tried it, because I was like up fumbling.
Yeah.
I got a 4. And I was like, I hate you, ChatGPT. That was stupid. And then it gave me an 8 the second time. So I was happy. Let's see. Let's see. This is just like the discrete event simulation I used to write CCP. Yeah, that's amazing. Julie,
Okay. I'm going to drop one more comment in here for people.
Shoot.
Because we should probably do an hour on AI sometime. Maybe that next month we do a podcast on AI. Because we're pretty heavily entrenched in AI as well. So I just gave a prompt framework for people that's still the best way to get the best output on ChatGPT, regardless of what you're asking. So it's kind of a fill in the blanks there for your prompt framework to yeah. So it's pretty awesome. But we should spend an hour next month doing that.
Let's do that next month, guys. We'll play it live next month. For now, I'll send everybody the prompt so you guys can play with it in the chat. And then let's go right into our next topic. Curtis,
Yeah, I would love to. Let me figure out how to share my screen on something real quick.
All right, you tell me, and then I'll keep talking. One of the things that I want you guys to do in everything that you're listening to right now, and yes, Ernie, we'll send that link over. We'll put the REDX link there. I want you to start thinking, where do I want to start with this based on my market? Do I want to start with social? Do I want to start with expireds? Do I want to start with for sale by owners or for rent by owners? I'll tell you, my market, I'm in California, Los Angeles, and Ventura County, and our market is normal. That means if something is priced really well, it does get multiple offers. But if something's overpriced, it doesn't move very fast. So think, where do you want to start with everything you're listening to? All right, what do you got here?
Yeah, well, this goes right in line with exactly what you're saying. Is our number one source of business is always our sphere of influence. But the average or your database, but the average database in America, according to research from NAR, is 300 to 500 people. And a lot of those 300 to 500 people, I have 1,500 on here just because I thought, somebody has a bunch. Typically, they're going to be buyer leads, right? So if you fill your CRM with buyer leads, then or internet leads, I'll say, that have a really low conversion, there's not a lot of listings that come out of that group of people. So then you are grinding, trying to get referrals. And that works. And that's a strategy everyone should have, especially with your past clients. But the average listing rate in America in the last 12 months is about 6%, with half of those selling, 46% selling, right? So we're under 3% turnover rate. And if you are just have an average database, that's what your listing rate is. So I'm going to skip FSBOs. I'm going to come back to those, but I'm going to go through these. So pre-foreclosures right now, this is the previous 12 months of data. It's about 3 weeks old. So, but it's not going to change in 3 weeks. Pre-foreclosures right now are only listing at a 13%, right? That's how many end up on the MLS. FSBOs right now is 31.4%. Of all the FSBOs, 31.4% end up on the MLS within, this is an average time of 6 weeks.
Okay.
And with expireds and canceleds, it's 44%.
Dude, hold on. This is amazing. I didn't see this before. By the way, I'm going to need this graphic. I'm going to confiscate this graphic from you, Curtis. But
well, and we update this every 7 days. So if people are on our newsletter, most of this information is in our newsletter. So just go to our website and sign up for the newsletter. Every Monday, we send out a bunch of stats about what's going on in the marketplace as it relates to what we're doing. And then we give you tips on how to use that data when talking to buyers or talking to sellers. But let me show you the craziest thing.
Show me.
Is what we're talking about is for rent by owners. Is when we look at for rent by owners, the list rate in the last 12 months is actually lower than the average list rate for the whole country. Less people are selling their rentals right now than before. However, one, look at the percent that sells compared to any other percent that sells. Right? There's some great takeaways from that.
Yeah.
And
I'm seeing 49% expired sell. Is that what I'm looking at correctly?
After they get listed. Yeah, 61% of for rent by owners sell. Part of that is there's less emotional attachment to a rental property than there is your primary residence. So the likelihood of you being able to price that right in today's market is much higher with a for rent by owner than it is any other source. But here's what's crazy. When we look at the pool of for rent by owners that were contacted and talked to an agent, and we only know if it was a REDX agent because that's the data set we have, right? The list rate is closer to 40%, which tells me this. What we call a for rent by owner is a rental property that is being managed by the owner. And at the point that we give that to you is when they are looking for a tenant. So if anybody's ever owned property, you know that you love them as long as they cash flow. And as soon as you have a problem or as soon as you have a vacancy, they're a liability. They're frustrating. So at the highest point of frustration, if you're talking to a landlord, a homeowner, saying, and the script is really easy. It's, if I could put more money in your pocket versus you continuing to rent this out yourself, is that worth 15 minutes of your time?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a conversation. We're seeing extremely high list rates. We're seeing close to 40% of those investors are listing their homes for sale. In many cases, the reason is they have no idea how much equity they have in them. And when they start looking at how much equity they have in the home, even pricing it right to sell in this market, they're going, I would rather take that cash now than continue to rent this out. Right. The other reason for rent by owners, sometimes there's a lot of inherited properties, and I rent it out and I'm trying to manage it myself, and I only have one rental property, and then an agent calls and says, well, let me show you how to get out of that property. Right. Anyway, that's we can stop presenting.
No, I love that.
But
here, I'll remove it.
Yeah, I just wanted to, we're talking about for rent by owners and absentee owners for a second. I wanted people to understand this is a tremendous listing opportunity in this market.
All right. So a few questions. Number one, where do we find, if we're already with REDX, where do we find the number for calling?
The role play number?
Yeah, the role play number.
So just, so it's something we wouldn't give out here because it's only for customers. If you go to the chat support and just ask them, they'll give you that.
In the back end chat support. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Okay, good. That's question number one. Question number two is, dude, what do you, this is a question for you and everybody listening.
All right.
What do you think of like Kent when he said, because I wrote this down, because now that I'm looking at this hits differently. Okay.
Right.
Kent said, I start my day calling expireds, right? So I'm looking at this chart, 49% sold.
Yep.
Then I go to number two. Well, he does expireds, right? So that's twice. Then he goes to for rent by owners, right? Which is number two, which, okay, now I see it makes a lot of sense, because even though there's less, there's a higher percent chance of them listing, right?
Yep.
It makes total sense. And then go ahead.
And I was going to even say, because then he does just listed, just sold circle prospecting.
Yep.
But if we really got into it with Kent, it's the circle prospecting in a lot of ways is two reasons. He's fulfilling a promise to his listings.
Yep.
That he's saying, in one of the values that he brings is he's going to proactively try to find a buyer. He's not just going to list it and hope another agent brings a buyer. Yep. And so he's calling around his listings, because statistically people move within 10 minutes of their friends, family, and coworkers. And so the likelihood that someone around your listing knows who's going to buy that house is really high. So he's calling around listings for one, to fulfill a promise to his listings, but that also works because they end up, you end up double siding a lot of deals. The second reason he does that is because when you prospect like Kent does, you run out of expireds to call, and you run out of FSBOs to call. As the market changes, his time spent calling anything but expireds and for rent by owners goes down.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the other piece that I wanted to add to that question, that was my question, right? You answered it.
Yeah.
This is something I noticed too, and he said it, and so did Rachel. And that was, they skip for sale by owners because they don't want to deal with that type of personality. Mm-hmm. And I can totally get it, by the way, because I don't know that I'm always in the mood to deal with that either. So that was a really cool thing to see for everybody here, because you can choose where you feel most comfortable. Right.
Well, and I would say, if you know yourself, go take one of a million, personality assessment tests. If you're analytical then maybe FSBOs are going to be your jam, right? Because they're thinking about it and they're crunching numbers and they're saying, I don't want to discommission. They're putting it out there, and for sell by owners might be the exact person you're going to connect with.
Yeah.
Over, an alpha personality expired listing that's really wants to blame our industry for why their home didn't sell, right?
Very
so, and my experience, I sold cars before I got into real estate, and there were certain people that would come into the dealership, and it was a joke because all of the salesmen would, disappear like cockroaches when you turn on the light, when certain people would come in on the lot. And I just learned how to communicate with those people. And I sold a ton of cars to highly analytical people that you just learn to communicate with them different. And so, but yeah, I think it's cool that there's choices. And if you look at for sell by owners, that's a really high list rate.
No, right? That is
5 times what your sphere of influence or your database is going to list at. So,
very true. Very true. Well, Mark and I, Mark on the team, Mark Rader. Yeah. Mark's been calling just sold a lot, but I just snapped this and I've sent it to him. I'm like, dude, you need to switch over to expireds and you need to switch over to FSBOs.
Yep.
ASAP.
Yep.
So that's going to be a fun one. Some questions. Roger says, I wish I could get the phone numbers for renters in my area, especially condo communities, because they usually want to purchase in that neighborhood. How do we solve for that with REDX?
That's harder because everything that we do, you don't solve for it with REDX, if to be candid, because our job is to find the homeowner and their phone number, because everything we do is on the listing side. Basic like phone book searches is typically where they look for phone numbers associated with the resident of the property. So something simple like whitepages.com even would be able to do that. But don't think for a second that I'm not going to write that down and go talk to the product team and go, hey, what if there's a toggle switch that says give me the resident versus the homeowner?
That's
right?
Actually a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in some markets that's amazing because buyers are heavily needed, right? All right. So when we're looking at for rent by owners, because we already went way over on this because I needed to show you some things. Yep. I'm going to just go the 3 opportunities that we have for rent by owners because we do list these. Let me just grab. I had Kent. I was texting Kent. All right. Here are the 3 opportunities when we call them. The very first one, when you're reaching out to for rent by owners, these are people who you don't know if they own multiple properties. Sometimes you do on the back end of REDX. Sometimes it tells you, hey, they actually own a few other ones. But the number one way is I reached out. I'll give you my best story, Curtis. I got somebody that was renting a townhome in my neighborhood, called them up, and I just said, hey, Curtis, it's Tristan. Listen, how's it going with that lease I work with? And then I told him who I work with at the time. And say, oh, you know what? It's going pretty well. We have some interest in it. I think I might end up leasing it. I said, great. Well, that was number one, right? How's it going with the lease? Super conversational. It's going well. You're a real estate agent. Awesome. And then I said, well, do you have anything else where it's not going well, right? Any other properties that you own that are leased that are not going well? And he said, well, now that I think about it, I have this one that's a pain, Tristan. I was like, oh, this actually works. This is a little bit better. I said, okay, tell me more about that. And he said, well, it's in an area where it's hidden, and every time we try to lease it, it just doesn't. And in fact, right now, it's empty, and we're thinking of selling it. Right. So question number 2 is, I'm happy that you're happy right now with your current leased property or one that you're about to lease. But do you have anything that's not making you happy or making you money? That's number 2. And then they say, yeah, you know what? Everything that I own, Tristan, is great. I love it. And I say, great. Well, have you thought about adding to your arsenal of listings? right? To your arsenal of properties. Have you thought about adding more? Are you ever in the market to buy anything if it's an amazing price? And then I go into different stories. How, because we're in this business, I always look at properties. I'm like, ooh, that's a great opportunity, and I can't buy it, so I send it to my investors.
Right.
Right. So then that becomes the third option. It's not just, oh, you're not interested. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. Right.
Yep. Can I add a fourth?
Yes. Give me the diamonds.
Yeah. Yeah. The fourth is, if they say, no, I'm pretty happy, Tristan, I'm happy with, I'm not trying to add, I'm just holding right now. The fourth one is no problem. It looks like you're managing these properties yourself. Would it be worth your time to talk to someone that might be able to help manage those properties if they could put more money in your pocket? And because the partnership that you could have, a lot of brokerages have that in your office, right? So that's convenient. But if you don't, guess who knows a lot of people who want to sell and tenants who want to buy properties is a good property management company.
That's very true.
So the referral relationship that you could have, if they go, yeah, actually that might be worth it, and you go, great, I'll just do a quick intro over email and let you take it from there. What's your best email? Because then you're collecting that and adding that. But I've seen that the partnership that agents can have by just referring, all of a sudden the reciprocation of referrals when a landlord wants to sell their homes, sometimes it's a full portfolio. So
I like that, man. I just added that to my fourth thing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Let me just put a plug in here. If there's any agents listening in Birmingham, Alabama, I have a portfolio of rentals that I would love to sell. And I even tried to sell one and it expired. And of course, I blocked my number from my own service because I wanted to see who was calling from other services calling expireds. And one, I had 80 phone calls on the first day. Only 2 of them didn't. 78 of them showed up as spam.
Damn.
And I didn't answer them. So I answered the 2, and they were not using a service. They were, calling from their phone. So be careful of the service you use. This is why REDX does spam monitoring, spam flag remediation on the phone numbers. But I only answered the phone 2 times, and neither one of them followed up with me once.
No way.
And I told them, they said, yeah, this one expired, but I have 6 I'd like to sell.
And then who would you end up giving these to that they expired, or one?
That's why I'm throwing it out there. Somebody call me. Like somebody email me and say, I'll do the, I'm a driver.
Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah.
Just let me Google how to get a license there. Hold on.
So I do have a property management, but when I had rentals locally, I manage them myself. And of course I did a dumb thing. I sold them in 2017 thinking there's no way that I could ever make more money on these properties than I could right now. And they're worth 4 times as much as they were when I sold them in 2017.
Holy crap.
4 times. Yeah. But I did the same thing on webinar. I'd say, I'm a for rent by owner. I hate them when I'm looking for a tenant. I hate doing background checks. I hate looking at applications.
Me too.
I hate showing the property, but I'm managing myself because I had a couple of duplexes and I wanted to, I know more now. I would hire a good property management company. But at the time I thought, well, I'm saving money, so I can cash flow better. And if anybody would have reached out and said, can I just show you your equity position? And see if you want to sell instead of keep dealing with this, I would have said, please meet me right now.
Interesting.
So I think for rent by owners are the most underutilized lead type there is.
Yep.
And it's a fantastic listing, and the data, you can't argue the data. if you get the list, if you contact them and have a conversation, the list rate is really high and the sell rate is higher than any other lead type. Because, you know, they're going to price it right.
Yeah, there's less of an emotional tie. I think that's going to be the key.
Right.
All right, Curtis, let's transition over to retargeting strategies and how to use meta ads.
Oh, love it.
This is one of your favorite sessions.
It is.
So where do we start with this? Because you added this recently to REDX to make it more, I think, to make it more amazing, because now we can retarget expireds, retarget for sale by owners. In essence, retarget anybody that we've created these lists for on the back end, and you've simplified it into, what was it, 4 steps on the back, not counting the press go, right, review, because I've tested this out and we've done this. But tell me the idea behind it. How have you seen people use it best? And then if you can, show me your screen so we can go through the back end, or I can show you mine.
Yeah, why don't we pull up yours, because it's real data and an actual system. But yeah, so this concept started way back in 14. There was a short window, if people remember, there's a short window on social media where you could create a custom audience and you could target a single person. Like I could put an ad in front of you, Tristan. And so we had this idea, and we were doing it manually with an agent, where we would grab the Google photo of the person's house, and the ad would say, "Your home came off the market," and we would put that ad in front of the homeowner on social media. Well, that worked really well, but you can't do that anymore. But I always, from way back then, with a background in marketing, I thought, if I were going to, if REDX ceased to exist today, I would do exactly what I've been telling agents to do for the last 20 years. I would grab a list of high list rate people. Expireds is the highest. 45% are going to relist.
Yeah.
I would find a way to get in front of them. That's what marketing is all about. Whether that's calling or door knocking or hanging door flyers or, or that. But I also go, well, social media has the attention of everyone right now. Everybody is in their newsfeed every single day.
Yeah.
So if you could put a billboard on the freeway in your market, guaranteeing that only the people you wanted to work with are going to see that billboard, that would be worth, you would have billboards up. That's what social media is. That's what social media targeting is. And people are confused, especially in our industry, because of all the special categories, and you can't narrow down a lot of the features inside of Meta to do ads, but you can if you bring the data to Meta. And so through REDX, we said, well, we have the data. It turns out the best way for Facebook to know if who their users are is matching their phone numbers and emails to them. So we go and we have Meta find the expireds, let's say expireds, find the expireds, and now you can create social media ads and you can put them just in front of the data that you're getting from REDX. I'm going to go on a tangent on more about the why this works so well than the how, because it's really important that people understand. It's really important that you understand. Forbes recently came out and said, on any given day, Americans are exposed to between 6,000 and 10,000 advertisements a day.
Dang, man.
6 and 10. So the old sales strategy of, hey, you need 7 to 12 touches to make an impression. That's what every book said for 50 years.
Yeah, that was when we didn't have information overload.
Yeah, it's closer to 50 exposures. Well, the only way to break through that, and even that, I would question even that, because we've trained our brains to ignore everything that's not super relevant, right? Mm-hmm. That's called our reticular activating system. It's your filter of what gets through and what doesn't get through. Well, it's only letting things through that are highly pertinent to our emotional state, right? And so when you look at an expired listing, they're embarrassed, they're frustrated, they're, whatever the emotion is, and they're in a particular situation. So if the closer I can get to that messaging, I only need one time. My brain's going to pay attention because it's so relevant to how, the state that I'm in and the emotions that I'm feeling right now. So like I have 6 kids. That could be a whole nother webinar.
Wait, that's the title of our next webinar. I have 6 kids.
Yeah. They're all redheads too. So
that's the subtitle. They're all redheads.
Like if I were scrolling on Facebook, as creepy as it would be if somebody was like, over 40, struggling to maintain muscle mass or gain weight in the gym because you're busy parenting 6 kids, I'd be
you're a redhead, and you're a redhead.
You'd be like, wait, click, right? Because it's so relevant to what I'm thinking about and doing. So when you take that strategy, right, and you put that in our business of, you put that in our business, you say, okay, well, the most prominent emotion that expireds are feeling is embarrassment. We think it's frustration. It manifests that they're mad or angry, especially when you call somebody that's mad or angry. But really, they've been saying goodbye to their neighbors and their, congregations and their your PTA groups and whatever. They've been saying goodbye for 6 months, and then it doesn't sell. And they're like, well, shoot, they're embarrassed. And they want somebody to blame. That's why it comes out in anger. But if we know that, if we could say, if there was a headline that said, it's hard, to say goodbye only to stay, if you tap into the emotions that they're feeling, then it's going to matter. In fact, I have another handout that I'll send to your team right now, Tristan.
All right, perfect.
That is the perfect ChatGPT prompts to have chat. It's a dual part prompt. So the first prompt is to do research to understand the emotional state of insert lead when trying to insert what they're trying to do. For sale by owners trying to sell, an empty nester is trying to downsize, whatever. It will do the research to find those emotional states. And in the prompt, it's saying to research common questions that they are asking themselves, their inner dialogue because of these emotions. The second part of that prompt then says, now take that prompt and create an ad by putting the emotional state in the headline and this in the subheader and this, and we kind of format it into the perfect ad strategy. So we'll give that to everybody.
Okay, Curtis, I've got a couple of things. One, I've got the title for our next session, which will be using AI when prospecting.
Got it. I love it.
Perfect. Yep. And then number 2, Lori has someone in Birmingham. Oh, there you go. If you want to text her, there's your number. And then this way.
I get a lot of agents that know someone because they want the referral fee, but it's not them. But I will reach out, Lori, and see what you got to see. So I'm actively interviewing people out there right now.
Perfect. And then Felix says, where can I get more info about or on directing ads in Meta, which is what I'm going to show. Yeah. But would it be the same QR code or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, right? Same QR code. There's tons. Because that goes to make sure you get the special offer through Lab Coats, but it also is our whole website. So Ad Builder is the name of the product because we're building ads and we're targeting specific people with those ads right inside of our Vortex lead platform. Yeah.
So am I here backend Ad Builder? I'm going to name it, right? So what would you choose and tell me why? I'm going to name it just general expired. Okay.
So a couple of things here is most ad strategies is about generating a lead. And you'll notice, like, if you go into Facebook, there's one more category called, generate a lead.
Yeah, lead ad.
The point of generating a lead is to try to get somebody's contact information. But we already have the contact information, so that does two things. it drastically reduces the cost of this type of marketing strategy and targeting, because your most expensive ads targeting on social media is when you're trying to get them to fill out a form and generate a lead, right? So almost always I would choose reach and awareness, even if you're going to put a website where they're going to click, because we're trying to tap into the emotional state, and reach and awareness is going to put your ad in front of them the most amount of times for the least amount of money.
Got it. So let's go to reach and awareness. I'm going to name this one expireds. Okay. Next, it says audience.
Yep. Now you can use Facebook location targeting, but as most people know, it's limited to a 30-mile circle. So
15.
usually you can't target, right? So you know, the whole point of this is to take the data you have inside of Vortex so you can create a custom audience, right? So that's, I mean, are you even drive? That's like a 12-hour drive in your neck of the woods down here.
A 15-mile radius. I would rather go to the Vortex data.
That's right. So
just my expireds.
Yep. Grab your expireds.
And 2,000. See where it says here. I've got 2,100. So 2,000. Audience size must be 1,000 plus. So if you're going to use this, let's say for sale by owners, just listed, just sold, make sure that when you make these, like mine are smaller, right? Looking for my FSBOs that I've dialed down to 21. So it got to be much bigger.
And I'll tell you what to do there is what you do is you take those FSBOs, you pull in the 100 houses around each one of the FSBOs.
Yeah.
And you add that to the folder or filter inside of Vortex so that you're targeting those 21, but you're targeting their neighborhoods as well. Because for the exposure cost, it's still worth it, right? To be able to target those 21 FSBOs. Okay.
Now let's assume it's expireds, because I know we have Rachel and Scott next talking about expireds and FSBOs. So we're going to go expireds. I'm going to click next. So far, it's been super easy, dude. Now, I've already connected my Facebook and Instagram, right? Yep. So it's going to be connected. I would just need to use, we recommend content as square or vertical layout. So I would just go to wherever you're going to go to get your listing, your pictures. I'm just going to go, for me, I'm going to go to Redfin, actually. It's much easier.
The number one thing I recommend always is a video of yourself. Because again, remember, we're trying to tap into an emotional state and we're trying to build brand awareness to you, right? So grab your phone and use that GPT prompt that we're going to give you to create a 30-second script that says, man, it could be super frustrating when your home comes off the market. When you have a plan to do something else, here's the top 3 reasons why homes aren't selling in today's market.
Oh, so maybe I'll use this picture of me. It was a thumbnail that I did for a video a couple of days ago.
Yeah, great.
So let's just pretend it's the picture you want. It's a little bit elongated. It's not square, right? Yeah. But it's uploading, and then I can add the messaging specifically. I have ad blocker on. Give me a second. And we refresh that, reload. All right. Now, when you're looking at this and saying, well, where do I get the verbiage for this? Mm-hmm. Well, I want to remind people, it depends where or who you're targeting. Right. If I'm targeting expireds, make sure that the verbiage is for expireds. If you're targeting FSBOs, what's their biggest fear? This is why I loved you brought up, Curtis. Yeah. If my home expired, what is my number one feeling right now? I'm embarrassed.
Yep.
So talk to that. In fact, I was thinking about this a little bit more, Curtis. Let me look at you, because I'm only looking at my screen. Give me a second. Yeah. Where'd you go? Right here. All right. I'm thinking this, Curtis. If I'm an expired listing and I'm embarrassed, you told me this, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago for the first time. I was shocked. I was like, that was not my first guess.
Yeah.
I started thinking, how can I approach this differently? As far as expireds, because I call expireds, what should my initial script be? What should my initial dialogue be moving in? Because they're embarrassed. And at some point, they're not only just embarrassed, but they're angry, right? And when you're embarrassed, you blame other things and other people. You don't blame yourself. So I've been just rethinking about that. Just wanted to tell you, dude, I'm going to get this. I don't know the right approach, but we're testing things out. Okay.
Well, if you haven't tried our perfect ads prompt, you should do that.
All right, I will. Your home expired. Let's just pretend I made some amazing thing there, right?
Yep.
And then you can also have a link to your website so that people can check it out if you want. What would be a good website? Let's pretend this is my main website, which I'm choosing Redfin's. My link, your home expired. And then my call to action is learn more, right? So as I'm adding all of these things, this is changing up on this end, and I can take a look at what the ad will look like for Tristan and Associates. That's our team site. And then I can change it up and say, well, how will it look as on an Instagram feed, right? Because when you run this through Meta, so Facebook and Instagram, and then you let the algorithm decide where the money that you're going to put on this is being spent based on how it's being engaged on, right? So that's what it looks like on Instagram. Pretty easy, pretty nice, right? And then let's just say I like this as it stands. Let's go to next. So far, easy. I think that was the hardest part so far, right? Creating the ad. Next, talk to me through the duration and budget.
So again, you're paying Facebook directly, Meta directly. There's no, there's nothing coming to REDX. So, for $3 a day, you can target a ton of people in a custom audience. I would never do more than I would do $10 and see what it does. I mean, it's so little because Facebook's you're paying Facebook just to put your ad in front of them. If you're trying to generate a lead, you're paying Facebook to do all the work to say, when is it most likely that they're going to click and generate a lead? You just want exposure. So for see, $2 a day is your minimum spend through Meta. So do $5 a day for a few days and just check it out. And the stats will show you, go, wow, 1,000 people from this group saw my ad, over the last 3 days or whatever it is.
So I think based on this, and then it'll have a disclosure. So that's my budget. And then it's a housing. So you just have to confirm, easy, right? And then it'll go to the summary. It's like, do you actually want to do this? This is what it looks like. Here are the steps. The hardest part, I think, in testing this out, Curtis, is for me, it's going to come down to this ad section. I need to make sure that my ad is one that's going to attract or connect with the audience that I'm actually trying to reach.
So let me, I put in our prompts here, and all I inserted was expired listing home sellers into my prompt. That's all I had to add in there. Here's what it suggested. The headline of the ad, why didn't our, like in quotes, why didn't our home sell when everyone else's did? Now, that might not work in your market. So you might have to say, I'm in this market, that doesn't work. The text, the copy says, if your listing expired and you're left wondering what went wrong, you're not alone. Many sellers feel frustrated, anxious, even embarrassed after. Isn't that crazy that even ChatGPT pulled out embarrassed? Because that's not in our prompt.
I like that.
After their homes sit on the market with no results, but your home didn't fail, the strategy did. With the right approach, you're not starting over, you're moving forward.
Listen, just send me the damn thing. That already sounded good.
So this is how we do ads, but it's designed to, like, if you think of a marketer as a experience creator, the experience you're trying to create is the emotion that I have now. What emotion do they want to feel that will help them move forward? If I'm embarrassed, I want to feel confidence. If I'm frustrated or fearful, I want to feel hope, right? And so the ad is designed to take them from their emotional state and then try to give them hope, which is what this is doing. But your home didn't fail, the strategy did. With the right approach, you're not starting over, you're moving forward, smarter. I specialize in helping homeowners just like you finally get their home sold with a plan that works. Call to action.
Yeah.
Message me now for a free consultation. And let's create a strategy that actually gets your home sold. And then it gives, here's the visual. A photo of a happy couple standing in front of a sold sign with a caption, finally sold after sitting for months. But I can follow up in ChatGPT. I can say, can you make me a 30-second script for a video?
Dude, you could do a carousel ad. Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
But I even love that that would be a great image with the sign that says finally sold after sitting for months. But here's the script it gave me. If your home didn't sell the first time, you probably ask yourself what went wrong. You're not alone. Then it even tells you cut to B-roll and do this. I work with homeowners just like, anyway. So the hardest part of this whole strategy we can overcome with a couple of AI prompts that we'll give away to everybody.
I love that. Ernie says basically we can send that ad builder to our expired leads on REDX. That's it. Correct. That's what I showed. I just built it. It took me a long time because I was talking, but it takes me, I think it takes me less than 3 minutes to do.
Yeah.
The one that's going to take you the longest is the preparation for the ad before you get to those screens. Like, what's the video going to be? What's the picture going to be? What's the ad wording going to look like? And that's why I loved what Curtis came up with, because it's perfect. It really goes with the idea that it's not, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it's not your fault. It's everybody else's, which is the world we live in. It's perfect. Yeah. Listen, don't take full responsibility of being an idiot and pricing the home too high. It's somebody else's fault. Just wanted to throw that out there. All right, with that, let's switch over to Rachel and Scott. We're going to talk about expireds and FSBOs. Let me bring them back on stage. Rachel, nice to see you again. Thanks for hanging out, by the way. Appreciate you.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Rachel. Hey, everyone. Good.
What's up, Scott? Are you outdoors for real, or is that a background?
I am outdoors for real here in Maui, Hawaii. You bet.
Oh, nice, man. I love your background too. This is the original background you take with you everywhere, or is that a real background?
That's real.
Oh, damn, dude. I like it. Good job. All right.
Did you go surfing today, Scott?
Nope. Last night, after I make my calls, I allow myself to surf after 6.
All right.
I love that. Scott,
living the life.
This is your first time coming in today. Can you give us a quick intro as to who you are and where you work?
You bet. It's Scott Catton. I'm here in Maui, Hawaii. I work at eXp Realty. I've been, in the real estate business for probably, almost 3 decades now, but really fairly new in some ways to residential real estate here in Maui. Came here about 3.5 years ago and have been full-time doing my thing, just building my business here.
I like that. Congrats, man. Very cool. All right, Rachel, one more time. How about you?
Yes, Rachel Warrell here in Northwest Florida, the Florida Panhandle, Panama City Beach, 30A, and Destin.
Nice. I like that. All right, let's start with you, Scott. Where does most of your business come from right now for the current market that you're in? Because you're in Maui. Is that like a tough market right now, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're on the bleeding edge of what a lot of people are feeling, in other parts of the country. Our market's definitely a buyer's market, for sure. It's been that way for, almost a year now. So I feel like I've been going through the pain that some folks are going through, just hitting them now. So most of my business, I do all my prospecting, if you will, through cold calling for the most part through REDX, and I call the whole gambit. I'll say the whole suite of potential prospects out there. That's what I call everything from, what a lot of us do, right? Expireds, for sale by owners, for rent by owners. I do a lot of circle dialing around, new listings, what sold recently. And one of my favorites is the open house invite. I use that a lot, and that's been really successful. And then I put out a weekly email, right? I play the long game. I'm not really looking for the short game. I really like to put people into my database, you know, through the email, and then send out a weekly email. And you know, maybe after 6 months to a year, I get a come list me call. You know, your favorite one, and I feel like that's been a really good strategy, and that's where my business comes from.
Okay, so really quick though, let's go into you mentioned that you do all of those calls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you start? And right now in your market, what's working the best?
Yeah. So what works the best for me, since I'm in a vacation rental market for the most part, I think, you know, Rachel may be as well. You know, most of these are you know, out of state, which means they're 2,600 miles away, right? And they're mostly condominiums that are short-term vacation rentals. That's my primary market and what I focus on most. Okay. In our market, we have roughly 20 open houses a day. So I find it real successful just to invite people to open houses of other agents' open houses. That's probably my number one script. And, you know, we've done other videos on that process, but that's my number one. My number two is expireds. And I particularly like old expireds. And I pulled data through REDX back 10 years, and I just, you know, sort of chip away at that list over time. I do call new expireds, but I find that 1 to 4 year old expired range being a good one.
Okay, so open houses, we'll go through that. And then old expireds, you'd say that those are your best. Cool. All right, let's go to Rachel. Rachel, there are some people that just jumped in. They're seeing you for the first time. What about you? Where do you primarily focus for the business that you have right now? What does that look like?
So my book of my main source of business is my book of business, which all transpired from expireds. Old expireds went 10 years back, called all 10 years worth of expireds. Probably, I think it was 20, so 5 years ago, right? But I still call fresh expireds. My goal is to do that once a week on Mondays.
Okay.
Also, I've done a lot of circle prospecting in the past, especially for this properties that I really, really want to target and just break into. I will do circle prospecting in there. My business is extremely similar to Scott's, and in that we both focus on second home income generating properties, and we both live in, you know, destination markets. I also do a weekly email every week. I sent mine out before my first panel. I just got a notification that Scott sent his.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, you know, let's talk about what's in the email. Rachel, I want to go to you first. What type of email do you send out? Does it really matter what's in it, or do you pay attention to what you send out?
Oh yeah, no, it is extremely important that your email is valuable to property owners in the market that you sell in. Okay, you do not want to give national stats. You also don't want to tell them what colors are best to paint their front door, you know, something that they could find on Pinterest or whatever, nothing generic. And it also needs to have your personal insight into what's going on. Because people really do respond to that. They want like insider information. So you really need to kind of share that aspect of it, and being consistent too. So gosh, like I have not missed a weekly email in over 7 years.
Whoa. Okay. That's awesome.
I mean, but it's serious.
Do you what day do you take to build it out? Is it you building this out specifically? Do you have help?
Yes.
Okay.
No. This needs to come from your soul. Okay. There really does. It needs to be very genuine, very authentic. People need to understand that this is coming from you. It depends on the email. We have some beach access litigation, legislation, just a lot of drama in particular to a certain beach in my market. So I'll keep my sellers up to date on that. Sometimes, but sometimes it's market stats or, you know, but it needs to be personal. Maybe a restaurant that just opened or something that's happened, but very custom, and it needs to be your voice. You can use ChatGPT to kind of, maybe if you're doing market stats, right, to break it down, but you still need to have your voice. I mean, if it's obvious that ChatGPT wrote it, who cares?
Very true.
I
How
mean,
do
are you going to open it if you think it's generic? Like,
No, once you read it one time, it's generic, then you're like, I'm probably not going to open it again. So that makes sense. Who do you call to gather these emails, and what does that conversation look like? And Scott, I'm going to ask the same question to you, but Rachel, who are you calling and where are you getting these emails?
Property owners. So I'm calling expireds, circle prospecting. If they tell me like, hey, thank you so much for calling, we're not looking to do, anything right now. And I'm like, I got it. I wouldn't sell it ever, if I were you. I love it over there. Well, hey, listen, is it okay if I send you my contact information? And, if you ever need me down the road, you got me. They say yes, because I've had a very good conversation with them, low pressure. I get their email, and then, they'll give me a call in a couple of years. And then sometimes I'll call people that have already got my email. They're like, oh my God, I get your emails. I love them. I love them. Thank you for keeping us updated on the customer use, the beach access thing, just make sure it's very valuable and very personal, so that they feel comfortable. And when the time is right. And I said this before, when I don't do listing presentations. Usually I'm the only person that they call, and I'm not competing with any other agents.
Makes sense. Okay, going to you, Scott. How about you? Who are you calling to get these emails, and how do you transition to ask for the email?
Yeah, no, I can't agree more with Rachel. Our techniques and approaches are like 100% aligned. So everything she said.
We make cold calls together.
Yeah, we make cold calls together. So,
Wow.
And I would also say that the email is the foundation of the business, right? It isn't the calls, it's the email. You got to start with the email first, okay?
Yeah.
Get that into your repertoire, because we're both playing the long game, and it comes from the soul, just like Rachel said. We prepare it. I send mine out Wednesday morning, 7 o'clock Pacific time is when it ends up hitting. And I start prepping that maybe over the weekend. I spend a couple hours prepping it. As Rachel mentioned, it's from the soul. It's super local. Nobody cares about national stats, right? They care about what's going on in your market, and they want a little piece of you in that email that they receive. So I start there. As far as where the emails come from, very similar to what Rachel says. We get on the dialer, we fire up the triple line. Maybe my routine. I'll just tell you my routine. I get up early. I go through the hot sheets. I look through there. I see what's going on. I look at what open houses are happening that day, what sold, what changed prices. So I'm very knowledgeable on what's going on in the market, because I keep up on it every single day. That takes maybe 20 minutes to half an hour as I'm drinking my coffee. Okay. Cool. Then I then spend about a half an hour just thinking about, who am I going to call today? Okay. It isn't so much a day of the week or Monday or Fridays or what time am I going to call. I always call. I start my dialer at 8 and I shut it off at noon. So I try to dial 4 hours a day. Okay. So I just want to keep the dialer spinning. and that's the key. So I might call some fresh expireds. I might call some for rent by owners. I might call for some for sale by owners. Whatever it happens to be, might do some open house invites. If it's a Friday, that's a great day to just invite people. Okay. And then the conversation is very natural. What you say at the beginning, whatever your script is, just needs to be simple. Hey, is this John? Yeah, this is John. Hey, terrific. John. Hey, this is Scott, local realtor here in Maui. You got a quick sec? Oh, yeah, sure. Hey, I noticed you had a property at XYZ Street. Is that still on the market? So this might be an expired type of strip, or recently expired, or it might be an old one. And then you kind of go off script. You want to ask questions, go off script, and just take the conversation whatever way they want to go, and ask meaningful questions to get to the why they happen to be selling in the first place. So then you can mature that conversation as you go. And then ultimately ask for the email, just stay in touch. Hey, can I send you some info? Whatever it is, right? And then they acknowledge and say, yeah, it'd be okay to stay in touch. Then you ask for the email and you move on. And then I immediately send out a sort of a welcome email. Here's my contact info. Here's my website. I'll stay in touch with you from time to time with a Maui market report. That's it.
The Maui market report. I like that.
Mhm.
You know, as I'm listening to you, Scott, and I don't know, Rachel and Curtis, if you feel the same way, but Scott, it's so damn unfair that I hear all these beautiful sounds in the background and I'm not freaking there. Like,
Well,
what the heck?
come join
man?
me
What the heck?
anytime.
I happen to know a good realtor out there if you need a property in Maui.
Dude, that
That's
is
right.
so calming. I'm like, I'm just listening to the birds and the nature. I'm like, that's so cool, man.
With Kent's
I
cold
love it.
plunge that we've talked about
Yeah.
3 times
Yeah.
on today. Yeah.
It
Hey,
doesn't suck.
I had 2 things to jump in, just to try to add. Otherwise, I'm just kind of the ugly guy in the corner of the screen here. So let me try to add some value. We recently doubled the amount of open rate and click through rate in our weekly newsletter.
Mhm.
Wow.
And we're sending newsletters to real estate agents. That's our customer. But we got to the point where the open rates and click through rates kept going down, but the unsubscribe rates were not changing, which kind of is an indication that people value it if they get around to reading it. If they happen to be, sitting around and it comes through at the right time, they'll open it and they'll click on it and do that. What Rachel was saying about the value, I would add is if there's urgency, and not fake urgency, not scarcity like a lot of marketers are trying to do, but urgency, meaning this information is relevant right now, but it might not be relevant next week or 2 weeks later. That gives people more incentive to open. This is why we started including weekly statistics for our customers to say, this is what's happening right now in your marketplace in the last 7 days. And so, because if they miss it, it's not as relevant as if I open it right now. So that information, so anything that you can add that is timely will increase the engagement rate on a consistent basis. Like she's talking about beach access. If there were, like, it would be amazing for open rates if something changes and she's like, hey, something changed, your open rates are going to be far, because there's urgency. It's relevant right now.
Well, I would say consistently my open rates range from, the lowest is like 40, but over 50%. So I think a key to a consistent open rate is that, and because people are always really time. Like, I want to be able to like breeze through this email, get the information and go. Right. So you don't want to be too wordy. You don't want to be too like, it just like boom, boom, boom. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So save people
Completely
time.
agree.
They don't want to read War and Peace. They want the information. They want to go.
Yeah, I love it. And that's how we almost doubled our click-through rates without changing anything. I feel like there's a piece of our soul in our voice and brand, just like exactly what they're both talking about in a newsletter, is you're trying to communicate your brand voice and bring tons of value. If there's timely things that can help. The other thing that I jump forward to something that Scott said, it reminded me, we used to talk about this a lot. But there's been 7 years where people didn't want to ever prospect. So we've done a lot of training. So I'm bringing this back. I played a game with all of my kids. And we call it the conversation game. And usually start pretty young. And we have a ball or something. We'll toss the ball to them and they have to ask me a question.
Okay.
And then they toss the ball back and I have to respond. And then I throw them the ball again. And I teach them the same thing we teach in sales, is your questioning that Scott's talking about. You go off script and you ask questions, is if you can at least go 3 wide, 3 deep on the question. So I'm trying to teach my kids how to have a conversation outside of, text messages, because that's their generation, right? They don't know how to talk to humans. And so part of that game is me saying, when they're really young, they might say, well, what's your favorite color? I will go blue. And they go back. And if they go, well, what's your favorite food? I'll go, well, you got to ask me a question about the answer I gave you about my first question first. So my favorite color is blue. Why is your favorite color blue? Right. And you're trying to teach people to ask questions to go deeper, because it's only on the 3rd question that people are really revealing what's in their heart and head.
Cool.
And then once you go 3 deep, then you could ask a different question. 3 wide, 3 deep in your questioning will always get you a tremendous, more deep, intimate conversation with people in your scripting.
I love that. That's really good.
Yeah, no, it is. It's great to even, I wrote it down as you were chatting there because it's super important to, it shows you're listening, right? That's the important thing. This isn't about, you're not getting on the phone to talk. You're getting on the phone to listen. And the way you listen is by asking good questions and then following the conversation the way that client would like to go. You're building rapport. You've got a little roadmap on where you want to go. But if it takes a fork on the road, go there. Go on that fork with them to get behind. What that does is it brings their guard down. You're having a conversation, right? And then they're going to open up to you to tell you what's really going on. Because guess what? Nobody wakes up one morning and wants to buy or sell real estate. Okay, something's going on in their life that is important to them, which is why they wanted to sell or maybe buy a vacation property or whatever in the first place. And so that's where you're trying to get to the nugget, the meat, so that they feel like you understand, because you legitimately do understand what's going on with them. And that's why it's easier for like Rachel or me to ask for that email to stay in touch, because we've already connected before we try to convert and get that email. It's not a script and this is what you do and then you get the email. It just doesn't work like that.
Yep. Oh, and on that note, speaking of open rates and not making connection, I mean, if you just put a bunch of emails on there and you've not had a conversation, like if you get the Geo Leads Plus or Expireds Plus, right, and there's an email, that email address may not be correct. Or if they haven't talked to you and connected with you, I mean, that if you get unsubscribes and spams, that's going to hurt your open rate too. So it really does need to be a personal endeavor. You still have to do your job as a salesperson and connect with people.
Yeah, and the open rates, I have the same open rates basically that Rachel does. I don't think I've had lower than 40%, and it's usually above 50, and the click-through rate's around 4%, something like that. I might get a couple unsubscribes a week, and I know folks worry about unsubscribes, but guess what? All that did is just cull the herd down for you. Your people, what you're looking for are your people. Right? I don't get along with all, people, that's okay. I'm looking for the people I do get along with that want to, know, like, and trust and do business with me in the future. That's okay to have some unsubscribes, but keep it local, keep it specific. I love Rachel's idea that you have something important going on in the market. I have the same thing in Hawaii. We've got some debacle going on with our short-term vacation rental market and converting, to long-term rental. Everybody cares about that. So that's what I write about, because that's what people care about now.
That's what property owners care about.
That's what property owners care about. What affects their property value? Yep. Right. If you can have that little nugget in the back of your head, that helps you draft your email each week.
What I love, how long have each of you been prospecting expireds? How many years?
I mean, I've been in the business like going on 8. So 7+ years of prospect. And and this is a really important point that I want to stress. I do not have to make cold calls, right? I don't. Like people will call me, want to list, but I still always have this feeling inside of me like, oh, I should at least try once a week or whatever, if that's the goal. If I'm not too busy doing deals, negotiating offers, going on appointments, like whatever, doing my job, like I do make a point to at least do it like once a week. But you will get to the point, if you are consistent, you've got a follow-up system to like stay, you're going to get to the point where you don't have to prospect, but why not? Like, why not go from 500 GCI to 7-figure GCI? At least that's how I feel.
Love it. Scott, how many years have you been prospecting?
When I moved to Maui about 3.5 years ago, and I was actually prospecting a little bit prior to that. So about 4 years, all through just what we've been talking about. It's been REDX 100%, the triple line, all the services.
Love it. The reason why I ask is it's so interesting how things have changed as the markets have changed, because it used to be when I first got in the industry in early 2006, it was a very you go for the appointment and you throw that lead in the garbage, appointment. Like the strategy was appointment. And what this wasn't planned, but what I love about the two people we have on right now, Tristan, is that they're articulating what the new success metric is of prospecting. It's emails. It's how many people am I putting in my database or my CRM? Mm-hmm. Because your CRM, for them, it's the weekly newsletter is their follow-up, the basis of their follow-up strategy. But your CRM is doing all of this work. Hopefully there's more than just the weekly newsletter. Hopefully there's automations and there's other stuff in the organization and the CRM. Well, you're missing out on some deals there. But
no, I'm really not. I promise you, I'm not. I mean, here's the proof in the pudding. I will call people. I don't even remember talking to them. I have to go look in my dialer and see when I called them. It'll be 3-5 years from now. This is like the most thing. And then honestly, if they unsubscribe from the email or we don't have a connection, that's not my client. But you're so right. Data is so important. And if you're a real estate agent, market share is important. Yeah. It's like the other agent that was on the other panel. He was talking about, oh, well, you've got 30 listings that aren't selling. Like, I will tell you, they will sell. Like, and that is market share. Yeah. Like, give me all of it. Yeah. Because it will sell. And I saw it after the pandemic. The pandemic, there was luxury listings that were on the market for 3 years. As COVID happened, Florida opened up, those listings were gone like that. Yeah. I wanted to have $5 million, $7 million, $9 million listings that evaporated. Like, let's go.
Well, all of us in the last decade have seen events to see a market change, overnight in our marketplace. So, but yeah, I love the idea of if I'm grinding on the phone and you don't get any appointments, that's harder. They're fewer between somebody who says, yeah, Scott, you can keep in touch with me. I'd love to get your newsletter. And that turns into business.
I'll take it one step further, Curtis. I would prefer to not get an appointment. Why?
Same. You ain't ready. I'm not.
Because, I go. Well, here's the why. They haven't received my weekly newsletter for a month, 2 months, 6 months, where they're like, this is my guy. So that way, when I have an appointment, it's a come list me appointment. It's not oh yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, I'm going to interview a couple other agents, right?
Yeah, very true.
I it is one step further, right? I would prefer to just stay in touch with them, work a little bit of a long game. And here's what's odd, even with expireds or for sale by owners, that's a good approach too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That.
All right, guys, anything in closing? I love where our conversation went, by the way. I think this is extremely important.
I think that you guys would be remiss if you did not go into Scott's open house script.
Oh, let's do that. Scott, open house script. Let's go. Okay, I'll do it quickly here. So here's the idea. A lot of people might pick up the phone and call and circle around their open house, right? Hey, you're just doing a little circle prospect. You grab maybe 100 to 300 homes around the one that's on the market, right? That you're going to have open from whatever, 10 to 1. Here's where I've done things a little bit different, because typically that would be with your listing, right? Like, this is my listing. Well, I started thinking, well, you know what? I can get on my MLS and figure out who's having an open house today. And if there's 20 open houses, why don't I give the agent that's the listing agent a call and see if I can, help drive traffic to their open house. So I started the process that way. I would call their agent and say, hey, would you be all right if I invite some folks to your open house today? I was just going to make a few phone calls. Okay. And they say, yeah, sure. That'd be great. I mean, 100 out of 100 times they're going to say, yes, please invite people to my open house. So now what I do, this has evolved over, a year or so. Now what I do is I just get on the MLS, figure out who's having an open house today, and I just circle around that open house and I invite them. So here's how the script goes. You dial them up. Hey, is this John? Yeah, this is John. Hey, John, this is Scott Catton. I'm a local realtor here in Maui. I just wanted to invite you to an open house today in your neighborhood. Pause. Oh, okay. Well, thanks. Not looking for any. Hey, no problem at all. I just wanted to invite a few neighbors, make sure we had, good attendance today. I know you might not be able to make it by, but would you be okay if I just sent you a link to the photos, the pricing, and what the open house schedule is going to be over the next couple of weeks? Would you be all right with that? Oh yeah, sure, that'd be great. Great. What's good email for you? Boom. There you go. Of course, the conversation can go other directions, right? But that's the core of it. And then I think the fear is that agents might fear, and that is like, oh my gosh, they're actually going to stop by. Hey, terrific. If they say, yeah, I live next door, I'm going to drop by. Well, what time is it? Oh, it's 10 to 1. Hey, terrific. I'll be by in a few minutes. Great. I then immediately email the listing agent and say, hey, Judy, I was making some calls around your open house today. John may stop by as a local neighbor. Let me know if he shows up. Boom, that's it, right? So not only have I sent that person, some information on the open house, I've received their email address. I'm going to send them my welcome email, right? And they're going to be on my weekly email forever. But also, Judy appreciates that I was driving traffic to her open house. Now, how many times does that actually happen? Maybe once a month of all the calls I make, I might hear someone that says,
I've heard people like, oh yeah, we might stop by. We're actually in town. Like I've heard that happen, but the key point is data and not like a very, so he doesn't have to go to the open house to have a connection with a property owner. I think it's genius. I truly do.
Yeah, no, it's great. And it's the easiest call you'll ever make. You're just inviting them to a party.
And you don't have to host the open house.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's so good. That's a really good hack, man.
Yeah.
I know. That's why I told you had to talk to him about that.
That's good. I wrote that down. I'm going to test that one out.
It's gold.
That's really good. I love that. And Rachel, thanks for bringing that up.
Anytime.
All right. So if people have questions for you, Rachel, or you, Scott, how do people get a hold of you?
Instagram's the best way for me. Rachel Warrell, realtor. So it's just my name, realtor. But yeah, or Google me. But my cell phone's all over the place. You can call me too.
Nice.
Yeah, the easiest way to get a hold of me if you want to talk in person. I mean, I make calls 5 days a week. You're welcome to join my Zoom room. It's Calls with Scott. Drop on in. We'll make calls together. Most of us are using REDX. So if you got questions on REDX, happy to help you.
Calls with Scott. Dude, do you play that? Curtis, do you play that one live on the back end of REDX?
No, we could though. If we have a prospecting community group. So yeah, Scott,
you're welcome to join anytime. We usually have 6 to 10 people in there making calls. I mean, serious call makers, and you learn a lot. I would really encourage all agents to call in a Zoom room, man. It makes it so fun.
Yeah. There's great accountability there too, right?
You learn so much from other agents too.
Everything works, but you pick up one little thing in a day. It's great.
You start at 8 a.m. Maui time, right?
The room's open 24/7, 365. You can pop in anytime. People call East Coast. We got people all over are calling, but I'm in there. I'm in there at 8 from basically 8 to noon HST, which is 3 hours, behind the Pacific time.
Yeah, behind us. All right, Scott, Rachel, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Let me get going on this one. All right, Curtis, we're down to the home stretch. We're going to be talking about the listing presentation.
So this is, it's interesting because Kent brought this up this morning, which is, and I loved his analogy of it's like a dog chasing a tire, and if he catches it, it's like, now what do I do? And like that analogy was so great because in all the years, this is a new epiphany to us and people don't realize it, but you subconsciously sabotage a bunch of your marketing efforts on the phone, door knocking, communicating with people at community events, whatever your thing is to have conversations with strangers. You are subconsciously sabotaging your strategy when you aren't confident in your listing presentation. Because, and again, to use Kent's analogy, because subconsciously you're afraid if you catch that tire, you have no idea what to do. And the more confident you are in your listing presentation, the more that will bleed through in your script, in your tone, in the way that you confidently talk to people. Like, and even in that listing presentation, I would go a step like deeper and say, one, it's not just the script in your listing presentation. And Tristan, you're going to go into your listing presentation, but it's all of the pieces that you're bringing into it. It's the marketing plan that you're going to talk about. It's the pricing strategy that you're going to end up talking about. It's like, if you're not confident in those things, then you might even have this subconscious belief that maybe you aren't the best solution for this homeowner, and that will kill your business. And this is this market right now, you have to have skills and training. And so we, in our 12-week masterclass that we do, actually Kent and Tyler teach, the first 2 weeks are listing presentation, because there's no point in teaching you how to prospect better if you don't know what to do when you catch that tire.
Yeah, if you don't know what you're actually offering.
That's right.
Because once you know what you're offering, that confidence in yourself changes. It's like, oh, got it. I have the Curtis plan, right? The 21-step Curtis plan to sell your home. And then that can easily turn into the 21-step Curtis expired plan, the 21-step Curtis for sale by owner plan, right? So,
well, and we have this joke in marketing where you R&D, and it's not research and development, it's rip off and duplicate.
That's funny.
So what I want everybody to do before, Tristan, you get into this, is I want people to be going, how do I R&D this? How do I take this? How do I take what Tristan's saying? How do I upload that into ChatGPT and say, make this more custom to me and my personality, right? Upload your disc profile to ChatGPT with someone else's listing presentation. Say, now make this more relevant to how I would do it. Like, do something to help you be confident in how you're going to go do a listing presentation, so that you don't subconsciously sabotage all of your lead generation efforts to get that appointment.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I like it. All right, this is where I want all of you to start then. I want you to start with thinking your marketing plan. What does it look like right now? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to the listing presentation, so we've done now over 1,000 of these. And the number one, I went on 2 last week, and I only got 1 of them. But the one thing that people that you're sitting in front of really want to talk to is they want to talk to the human. They want to talk to you. They don't want to sit through, most of them. All right. Some analyticals just want it, but most of them just want to have confidence in you. Does this person that I'm sitting in front of, can this person get the job done? And will they be available for me? And the higher you go in the price point of properties, the more true that becomes. Because when I've helped out these multi-million, $10 million, $15 million homeowners, they just want to dump things on me. And in order for them to get there, to dump things on me, they need to have the confidence in me. They need to trust that I am going to show up when they need it and that I do have the skills. So with that, I'm going to share with you my screen. Let me just get to the right one. There it is. And yeah, we will give this out to everybody, so don't worry. Let me just make sure I've got the right screen. You're going to have to tell me when you can see my screen. Curtis?
Yep, got it.
All right, cool. Let me go back to where I can see it. Good. So I can see what you're seeing, all of you. So this is something that we send out ahead of time. And I hardly ever sit down through this whole thing and go through it page by page. I've only had to do this, I think, probably less than 10 times over the 1,000 that we've done. And the reason is this: when you sit down, most people, as you're talking to them, most people, you'll gauge where they want to start. And I'll tell you this last one that I did. I'm sitting down with a group of 3. They're all siblings. And as soon as they open the door, they greet me, and then they start talking about how it's been a long day for them because they've interviewed 3 agents before me, right? And so that's already telling me there's no way in hell I'm going to go through this whole thing when I'm the last agent they're going through, and they're not going to sit through this. So I start asking questions after they're showing me the property. I'm like, what's been the most important thing as I'm going through the property? I'm saying, hey, what did the other few agents, what did they tell you that you really loved? As I'm walking the property with them and taking notes, right? So you've got to gauge where your client, where this customer is, so that you can start on the right page, or you can start with the right talk track. Now, as you're looking at this, I'm going to take you through it. I never start on page 1. So page 1 is just a bunch of garbage right here. Just who I am. I usually just talk about it. Next page, and I'll give you all those so you can see this, just reviews, right? Again, we don't start with this directly into this. This is just something that we send out ahead of time. Then some pretty pictures. It kind of says, hey, look, we've had over 100 million volumes sold. Easy. This now is where I start getting into a little bit more of the details, right? This page, which is page 5 and page 6. These do become important for the way that I present, because I approach this a little differently. I want to talk to you about where your property is, and I want to talk to the people that are going to probably buy it and where they're coming from, because I'm going to tie directly all of that to my marketing. So for me, it's extremely important for me to talk to you about where 43% of buyers begin looking online for property, right? And this is all updated, right? Of course, 100% or 99% of people, they go to the internet first, right? But these are the steps that buyers typically take when they're looking. They don't call their agent first, but look at number 2, contact a real estate agent early in the process. And then I have these stats over here. And then this is something I don't think I've seen before anywhere.
Sorry, just my own clarification. This is a question anybody I work with hears me say this all the time. What are you hiring this page to do?
This page, an understanding of how the buyer is going to be looking and finding your home specifically. And then I'm going to match this.
So this sets up how you're going to then market the home.
You got it. And how I'm approaching it, because the other piece right here, it says home buying journey. Look at this. 96% of buyers start online and engage various sources. Right. So to me, these are the most important ones, because I'm going to talk to these below.
Love it.
So as I'm going through this, the number, I don't go through all of these. I go through probably this right here, and then the important ones. And then sometimes if somebody says, hey, open houses suck, I'm like, yeah, they do suck, right? Look, 3%. But if they say, oh man, 3%, they say open houses are amazing. We sold our last home as an open house. Yeah, look, 3%. We make sure that we actually do those, even though it's a low amount. Here's what is important to us, because we tie this directly to social media. And I mention here, I have a page that goes through and says, hey, these are the most visited websites in the world. And number 1 is Google. And there are so many opportunities on Google. Number 2 is YouTube. Number 3 is Facebook. Number 4 is Instagram. And now number 5 is ChatGPT, right? In that order, which is crazy that ChatGPT is number 5 now. So now I say, let's take a look at where you live right now. Most of the people that live here or are buying here are, and then I've already done my homework. I'm going to say, hey, most of the people that are buying in your area are Gen Xers. And let's take a look at how they function, right? And then I start going, and then next, you're probably looking at young boomers. And then I reverse engineer the type of person that's probably going to purchase here. And then I also bring in, depending on which one I go to, I also start talking about the companies that are hiring here. And for us, Curtis, one of the biggest employers here is the #1 pharmaceutical in the world. It's Amgen. So yeah. Amgen pulls from Boston. Amgen pulls from San Francisco. Amgen pulls from Amsterdam. And I need to know this because I need to know well, what's the average age of a person moving in that they're contracting, and where are they purchasing, and what's their price point, right? And as soon as I start going that route, just based on this, they're like, oh, this guy is going back to what you said. Confidence is the key. They're saying, oh, yeah, this guy knows his stuff. Like, so that's the number one thing I get after I'm done. Like, wow, you really put this together really well, right? Your plan is really good. So after I do this, then we start going into a little bit more just casual things. It's not until I get to page right here, page 12 and 13, that I start outlining the things that we do. And sometimes people want me to get right into it. So I do. It doesn't mean I don't talk about the other things. I just tell them exactly what we're going to do for them. I said, look, it may be, Curtis, it may be your first time or your second time in selling your home, but I'm going to go through all the things that we do locally with most of the homes. And then you stop me at any point in time and let me know, oh, wow, that looks good. Or how does this work? Or we don't need that. Is that okay? And then you're like, yeah, go right ahead. I said, all right, Curtis, first thing we do is I want to let you know that this is a team approach. It's not just me that you're going to be working with. And then I tell them, right? In fact, Curtis, if I go to the listing appointment, I instantly tell them, like I did this group of siblings. I go, it's not me who you're going to be directly working with, right? It's Mark. Mark is going to be the one that's going to do this, do that. And people always say, why, Tristan? I'm like, well, I'm only good at this part, guys. Like, Mark's really good on the other part. Trust me, you want him there, right? Yeah. And I usually bring Mark with me.
When you're in the listing presentation, do they have a copy of this, or do you have it pulled up on your computer? Or so you bring extra copies in case you mailed it, but it might be gone. What I love about that, especially if you're skipping pages, there's a FOMO principle in marketing there, where if they haven't looked at it before, and you're like, well, let's go to page 5. They're going, well, wait, what's on page 1 through 4? And they might be distracted. And I'm guessing that you have people go, you're like into it, and they go, well, what does this mean over here on page 4?
Yeah. And
you're like, oh yeah. It's
that happens all the time.
So whether that's very intentional, there's a brilliant marketing principle in there of the fear that they're missed out on something important that is going to get them more engaged in what you're saying and what you're not saying than otherwise. So I think that's, people should take note of that. Like, hey, in case you don't have the mail, here it is. You print the extra copies, and they have it.
I do, man. Every place. So in this case, I printed out 3 for them, because I typically bring my iPad and I just present off of my iPad. Mm-hmm. But I always have a copy just in case, because one time my iPad crashed. Yeah. And I was like, oh crap, I only have their copies. So I took one of their copies right. But anyway, so yeah, everyone gets a copy, and this is what I tell them. I say, do me a favor, write on this. I want you to, as I'm talking, if you have ideas, if you have questions, I want you to write on this, because you're going to have questions. You're going to say, but Tristan, do you do this? The last agent said this, right? I want you to write that down. I want you to ask it to me. Is that okay, Curtis? And you're like, yes. Yeah. So we definitely do that. Good point on that one. Let me go back to this. So once we go through this is the most important page for everybody. This is where we spend most of the time. Then, we sometimes touch on this if they have more questions, and then we actually go into pricing. But these are the last 2 pages, and then I'll show you what this is, because this is important. When it comes to pricing, especially right now, these 2 pages, I have graphs, because I find that most people, they understand as I'm showing them this graph, and I'm saying, hey, let me explain to you why pricing is really important. And I know, and I loved, what was Kent's thing?
Yeah, the market.
3 different stages, right? We've got aspirations, comparables, and the auction effect. So let me go over how this works in the market, right? And then I go through the process. I said, look, especially in our market right now, this is for our market, Curtis, around 45 days, because we have 42 days on market is the average. Around 45 days, if your home hasn't sold, the very first thing people start looking at is Why? They start looking at the pictures. They start looking at the pricing. They don't know what the heck's going on. And I don't want you to get here so that you're at the end of this curve and now you have less interest because we didn't set it up right from the beginning. And so then we go into the different markets, similar to what Kent said, but we have different names, but I love his idea better.
Yeah.
Right. And then once we go over the pricing, which is extremely important. And by the way, the one thing I do differently when it comes to pricing is I actually have a separate document where I've itemized the pendings and the solds and the actives all on one paper. And I take my highlighter and I highlight their competitors, right? So I actually do that with a pen and I give that one sheeter to them.
Yeah.
Then go ahead.
I just have two graphs if people want to screenshot that playing a pricing depending on what your market is. So I don't want to take away too much from what you're doing, but I just shared my screen there. This is, according to NAR, did a big study. As you're talking to homeowners and understanding that, hey, right now, 8 in 10 home sellers think that they'll get their asking price or more when they list their home. Watch this.
Whoa.
This is the median sales price compared to the median asking price in the, this is in the country. But if you look at that gap and you just show people, hey, 8 in 10 people think they're going to get their asking price or more. But this is the reality of what's going on in the marketplace. You can, better set some expectations for.
That's a really good graph, man.
Yeah. So screenshot that.
I already had the team screenshot it. Perfect.
Nice. That's it.
I love this. So as we're adding items like this, it really creates a lot more clarity for the people you're presenting to. And let me go to one more here. Give me 1 second so I can end. I'd love to have that graph right there. And then the thing that we forget to go through is I actually go through with them what to expect before, which we did, but what to expect during and after. So we go through what happens once we receive an offer. We go through what happens on our end, how we're negotiating and how we're dealing with multiple people. I think that the one thing that's not clear to the people you're talking to right now is, Curtis, so once you get an offer, that's where we start to now shine even more. Because what happens is I have to now talk with the buyer's agent, maybe their broker, and then if you accept it and we go through this counteroffer situation where I'm helping you negotiate because I've done this and then I say how many times I've done it, right? Now we've got to deal with the appraiser, with the inspector. We're in an escrow state, so escrow. We've got to take a look at now hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents because we're in California, right? We probably have more paperwork than anybody else, dude. So this, right? And then I go through and all of these other people that may be involved because I'm not sure if there's going to be a plumber coming through, if there's a roofer. And in this whole process, I need to look at all of this and make sure that it's all falling in line at the right timeline because I need to get you out of your home when you need to get out. And I need to make sure that this process is okay. So now within that, once this is all done, and then I go through what happens after as well. So I go through this whole process with them so they understand it's not just the marketing where a lot of agents just stick to. It's what happens during and what happens after.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. And with that said, yes, you will get this copy. We'll send this out to everyone. I do hope to see you sign up. The link is there. Jazz, if you could put up the graphics so people could scan it. And I'm going to scan it when I see it because I haven't scanned it. I don't even know where it takes me. Let me scan it, Jazz. Hold on. All right. Scan. Oh, okay. Got it. REDX plus lab code agents. We got get both leads and prospecting for $298.
Yeah, or you could a la carte, right? I mean,
lead
start at $60 if you want to get started with something. But you know, part of the remix of adding marketing principles, not just calling principles, is anybody who signs up, we're giving a coupon for $100 for postcards. Mm-hmm. So if you sign up for one of the packages, you get $100 coupon to send out postcards. We didn't even go into that. But we have templates, we have great postcards. They applied all the principles we talked about of tapping into the right emotions and going there. Every postcard has a QR code that so you'll get a text message if somebody scans it. So then, you have now established relationship with them so you can follow up. But postcards right now are crushing it because they get 100% exposure, even if they're looking at it as it's going in the garbage. Like one of our expired postcards just says, "See why your home didn't sell," with a QR code. And if they're going in the garbage and they're an expired listing, they might go, "Okay," and they might, it's gonna pique their curiosity. And so on the other side, then it's branded to the agent and everything else. But anyway, $100 postcards are 88 cents. So that's you're getting whatever that is, 90, 110 or whatever it is.
Yeah. 110. Dude, I love that. I totally forgot about the postcard. I just looked it up right now on the back end to see how it looks. I see them. And they have the QR code so you can scan it and somebody gets it. All right. Questions that we missed, because I know we had a whole bunch of questions. Please ask them right now. Paul is asking, what were the 3 stages? Paul, Kent's 3 stages all had to do with pricing. So he said the 3 stages were aspirational or aspirations. He says, this one's not my favorite, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. This one is where you want to price it so high to test the market. And then he says, here's why that one becomes a challenge, right? And then he goes over that. Number 2, he calls comparable. This is where he shows what's pending, what's active, and what's sold. And he tries to place the home somewhere in that price point. And then number 3, he calls the auction effect, where he looks at the current price, similar homes, and he prices it lower than that to create some type of an auction effect, right? And Jorge, is there a way to ID who scanned it? Who scanned the QR code?
Yeah. So we already have their contact information. So when they scan you, we'll tell you, hey, someone at 123 Street. That's the text you'll get. Then you can just go into our system and look up the address and you'll have all their information there.
I like that. Sheila, have you added Bright MLS for expireds?
Bright, hopefully they don't have their executives on, is a very challenging MLS. You can use expireds in Bright MLS. It requires a handful of extra clicks in the morning, but it's worth it because then we do all the rest of the work.
Cool. All right. Good question, Sheila. Let me see what we've got. We did that one. Good. Shelly asked earlier, Scott's Zoom. We'll get a link to that. Zoom with Scott?
Calls with Scott. If you join our REDX prospecting community, Scott is very active in there with that link. But if somebody else has it, Calls with Scott is something. I thought that's what it was.
Kevin asked earlier, are you doing video emails? I'll show you what we've done.
Scott.
Here, I'm going to show you something that we do. We do this weekly as well. I forgot all about this. I should have talked about this earlier. This is my email. So this is live. This is the subject line. This was last week. Ventura prices soar. Ventura County. LA cools off. Your summer market forecast. This is my email. And then at the bottom, I have this. Yeah, and we work on our thumbnails. The team does an amazing job. And then this is last week. We get this response from Eugene. He says, just read your email regarding home prices in LA and Ventura. I would appreciate a market snapshot for my zip code. Thank you. Yeah, so when they're talking about that this actually works, it does. That happens to us once a week, right? So think about that. If that's once a week, that's 52 like this in a year. Emails work so extremely well. And I think you just need to start getting into a habit of asking for an email, because I know you guys work with Keeping Current Matters. They have such a beautiful email template. You just have to add it to MailChimp or Constant Contact or anything like that. MailChimp's $20 and Constant Contact is $12. So very, very inexpensive. Scott, thank you. Scott, calls with Scott. Perfect. All right, that's it. Curtis, anything else?
No, I mean, thank you for everybody for joining, hanging in there, whether you joined for just one session or the whole thing. We appreciate you jumping in, and, you know, give, if this brought any value, you know, post it in the chat before we go, especially just to thank all of the people on the back end that helped make this happen, as well as all of the panelists that shared their strategies, right? That's their business.
That was good.
And they're sharing it. So if it brought value, make sure you post a link in there. Otherwise, scan the QR code and talk to somebody on the team. It's pretty low pressure. Get a demo if you want a demo of the social media stuff that Rachel was talking about, or we can help you get more listings. So
yeah, I like it, man. Very
promises we've made. Just I know the team's got them, but promises we made is there's a link to a free course around prospecting scripts, objection handlers from Kent.
Okay, that's the university.
That's the REDX University.
Okay, got it.
You know, I had the team make it so it's a free. You know, they're not charging. It's a free course, whether you're a customer or not. There is the prompt for the perfect ads strategy.
Perfect ads.
There's your listing presentation.
Oh, and then my prompt for dialogue.
Yeah, your role playing prompt as well. I think anything else will be in the emails.
And obviously the replay, right? So hold on. Listing,
right.
Presentation. All right, anything else we missed, guys, that you all want? We've got university link, prompts for perfect ads, listing presentation, and then the role-playing prompt. There we go, role-playing. I spelled role wrong. Thank you. All right, very good. Thanks, great info. Can we do this again in the future? We do this again all the time, Derek. We'll do this again for sure. Thank you, buddy. Simon, yes, thank you. That was very helpful. That was great. Thank you. Super valuable. Thanks for all the info. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being on. We appreciate you. If you have any questions, reach out to Curtis or to me, and we'll help you. Thanks, everybody.